I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Nora Gay Banton.
In nationwide news at this hour, the country may have to access $4.5 billion from its disaster fund to respond to the damage caused by Hurricane Beryl.
The extent of the damage, as preliminarily and anecdotally assessed, will certainly mean that the government of Jamaica will have to draw on our contingency fund and the natural disaster fund. This totals $4.5 billion.
The damage to power lines in St. Elizabeth is 5 times worse than the rest of the island.
St. Elizabeth, we haven't been able to inspect 100% of our lines. There are only 20%, and the damages that we have seen in 20% are 5 times that we have seen in any other part of the country.
The NWC says more than 300 water production facilities remain affected across the island.
ODPEM says it's still assessing the extent of the damage caused by Hurricane Beryl.
In news from the rest of the world, David Lammy, son of Guyanese immigrants, named the new British Foreign Secretary.
New UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer vows to heal wounds of distraught after Labour landslide.
In headline sports, France and Spain set up mouth-watering Euro 2024 semi-final showdown.
And later in our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the country is protected against the potential economic damage of a natural disaster. He will join us to discuss how the country's disaster fund works.
In public opinion at 6:26, we'll ask, are you satisfied with the pace of service restoration by public utilities? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio. You can also message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693 or leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide90FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, Energy and Telecoms Minister Daryl Vaz called a meeting with JPS, NWC, and the country's 2 main telecommunications providers on Friday morning to get an update on the restoration of their services across the island following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Minister Vaz will join us. We'll also be joined by the Head of Corporate Affairs and Communications at Digicel, Elon Parkinson.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90 FM, Nationwide Radio JM.com, and on the Nationwide app available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Friday afternoon, it's Friday, July 5, 2024.
News at 5 is brought to you by Fostrich Company Limited, fostering rich customer service.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now the details. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the country may well have to tap into the first 2 layers of its disaster mitigation financing in response to the damage caused by Hurricane Beryl. The amount available at these 2 tiers amounts to approximately $4.5 billion. Ricardo Brooks tells us more.
The finance minister says while Jamaica is fortunate that Hurricane Beryl did not make landfall, parts of the country suffered significant damage. He says preliminary assessments suggest the country will have to draw on some or all of the resources available in the first 2 tiers of the government's strategic multi-layered disaster financing apparatus. These are the contingency fund and the natural disaster fund, through which a combined sum of $4.5 billion can be accessed.
The government of Jamaica has strategically put in place a multi-layered set of financial instruments to pre-finance the emergency response and recovery costs of natural disasters. While it is neither expected nor designed that all storms will trigger all instruments, the idea is that we should always be able to access resources from some instruments for every storm. As such, the extent of the damage, as preliminarily and anecdotally assessed, will certainly mean that the government of Jamaica will have to draw on all of the resources available in the first 2 layers, our contingency fund and the natural disaster fund. This totals $4.5 billion.
The finance minister says the government may also have to access the next layer, which consists of a contingent credit claim with the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB. Dr. Clark says he's already initiated the process for this access. The claim is valued at $46 billion.
While the maximum amount under this layer for the most severe natural disasters is approximately $46 billion, it will take a few days to ascertain exactly how much of this barrel will trigger, as well as how much we will need.
The country also has access to tropical, cyclone, and excess rainfall policies with the Caribbean Catastrophe Reinsurance Facility. Dr. Clark expects to know by early next week whether payouts from these policies will be required. However, he says that Jamaica's catastrophe bond was not triggered by Hurricane Beryl. This is a result of the trajectory and intensity of Hurricane Beryl.
The path and intensity of Hurricane Beryl did not trigger Jamaica's catastrophe bond, which essentially serves the purpose of providing financial protection against a Category 5 or very intense Category 4 hurricane making landfall in Jamaica. Had Hurricane Beryl made landfall in Jamaica, or had Hurricane Beryl retained its intensity as observed on Tuesday, as measured by centralized air pressure, it would have certainly triggered the catastrophe bond.
Dr. Clark is also reminding the country that Beryl is only the first hurricane of what's set to be an active season.
Finally, it is crucially important for us to bear in mind that Hurricane Beryl is only the first hurricane in the 2024 hurricane season. We will therefore need to continue to be prudent with resources, including the disaster risk financing resources, to ensure that we are also prepared for storms or hurricanes that may come later in this year's hurricane season.
Ricardo Brooks for Nationwide News.
The damage to power lines in the parish of St. Elizabeth caused by Hurricane Beryl is 5 times worse than the rest of the island. That's according to Chairman and Interim CEO of the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, Damian Obiglio. Obiglio was speaking at a media conference following a meeting with Energy Minister Darrell Vaz on Friday morning. Officials of JPS and other utility companies met with Minister Vaz to give an update on the restoration of services following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Siobhan Campbell reports.
Hurricane Beryl ravaged sections of St. Elizabeth, Manchester and Clarendon on Wednesday. The 3 parishes were hit by heavy rain and strong winds for up to 12 hours. The Category 4 storm left a trail of devastation in St. Elizabeth, with damage to houses, infrastructure and businesses. Scores of light poles hosting power lines fell in the strong wind. Obiglio says only 20% of the power lines in the parish have so far been assessed.
St. Elizabeth, we haven't been able to inspect 100% of our lines. There are only 20%, and the damages that we have seen in 20% are 5 times that we have seen in any other part of the country. So St. Elizabeth is going to require a very dedicated and intensive actions to be restored back to service. We expect to try to finish the assessment between today and tomorrow morning in that most affected area of the country.
According to the JPS chairman, the Light and Power Company has so far restored service to 45% of its customers across the island. He notes that emergency facilities have been prioritized.
We were able to maintain some areas in the east, especially in the corporate area, St. Catherine, south of Clarendon, with supply. And I can say now that we have 45% of the customers with power, 315,000 customers. So what are our priorities now? It's all what is called the emergency and critical facilities. Hospital, airports. We connected the 2 airports yesterday. That was one of the priorities. Hospitals. We connected a lot of the hospitals yesterday, but the ones we couldn't reach, like the ones that are located in the south coast, we were sure and we checked them by 8 p.m. that they have enough fuel to go through the next 48 hours.
Obiglio says JPS will be working with other utility companies to meet the demands of affected customers.
We have the requests, of course, of all our sister utilities, NWC number 1, and of course they are in our priority list. And we will have cases in which we will prioritize one pump and we clear the way like a highway to supply that pump, and maybe we leave customers on the side just because of the priorities. So I ask our customers again to bear with us on that. So by early this morning, we had 80% of the customers of Kingston, St. Andrew, St. James, St. Thomas, and St. Catherine on.
Siobhan Campbell for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, more than 300 water production facilities remain affected across the island following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. That's according to Acting President of the National Water Commission, NWC, Kevin Carr.
As of today, some 335 of our water production facilities are currently impacted by power supply, of which we are working closely with JPS, our close partner, to have service restored in the shortest possible time. To date, we have restored 30% of our service to our customers, and the remaining 70%, we, as I shared earlier, will be working closely to restore service.
Field teams were dispatched by the NWC on Thursday to begin assessment of water supply systems island-wide. Mr. Carr says the Mona and Constant Spring water treatment plants, which serve the corporate area, have been fully restored. However, the acting president says some water facilities in other sections of the island are operating on generators.
St. Elizabeth, Manchester, sections of Westmoreland are severely impacted, and those areas are served mainly by well sources. And our team, since yesterday morning, were dispatched and we have completed assessment of all our systems. On the northern side, all the systems on the north coast from St. Ann to Hanover and the Western Peak, they are interconnected. So currently, the Mortarbury Water Treatment Plant and the Great River Water Treatment Plant are currently operating on generator. And we can, at this time, we are only producing 25% of our production capacity. In Ocho Rios, Tennants Bay, and Port Maria, the Bogue Water Treatment Plant just above Duns River is a gravity system, so that system is fully in operations.
Kevin Carr, the acting president of the National Water Commission. He was speaking at a media conference held at the Ministry of Energy on Friday.
Energy Minister Darrell Vaz says international partners have offered to assist Jamaica with our recovery efforts following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. He was speaking at a media briefing on Friday after meeting with utility companies for an update on the restoration of services across the country.
There is precedent for those of us who are old enough to remember 1988, Hurricane Gilbert, where offers were made for assistance in recovery, specifically to the restoration of electricity. I've already received calls from CARICOM and from other international partners who are ready and waiting. So we will be putting in place and getting all the information that is required and putting a team to work with JPS to make sure that if there's any issue of resource challenges, that can be dealt with as a matter of urgency. I've been assured by the chairman as of this morning that they are comfortable and satisfied, but that has to be translated to the citizenry.
Minister Vaz says he expects to see a heavy presence of JPS workers across the island as efforts are made to restore power. He directed that utility companies give separate attention to parishes severely affected by the hurricane.
We have an issue with the hardest impacted area, which is parts of Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Clarendon that have not been able to be properly accessed, and therefore what I have asked is that be separated and updates be given on that as you go along with the assessment. But in the meantime, what you can report on in terms of the other parishes on a parish by parish basis with specific information.
Darrell Vaz, Energy Minister.
The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, says it's still assessing the extent of the damage caused by Hurricane Beryl. The agency says it has started initial assessments in the hardest hit areas. ODPEM says particular attention will have to be paid to the parishes of St. Elizabeth, Hanover, Clarendon, and Portland. Acting Director General of ODPEM, Richard Thompson, says once the assessment is completed, the agency will be able to determine what kind of post-disaster assistance is required. The Ministry of Labour and Social Security is expected to lead the humanitarian response in the hardest hit areas. The ministry is expected to hand out welfare packages in affected communities as soon as access points and major roadways become possible. You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
Value Drug Pharmacy offers curbside pickup and delivery of your branded and generic drugs. WhatsApp your prescription to 876-881-6695. The time by Value Drug Pharmacy is...
It's 15 minutes after 5.
Rent-to-Kill Initial offers air purification solutions with triple filtration and unique auto-sensing capabilities that neutralizes malodor and replaces it with clean air. Call Rent-to-Kill Initial at 926-4236 for more details.
The temperature by Rent-to-Kill is...
It's 30 degrees Celsius in both Kingston and Montego Bay.
You can still go through quicker and cheaper with a T-tag under the new toll rate structure. Effective July 6, there will be some changes to the toll rates at the Portmore, Spanish Town, Vineyards and Maypen toll plazas. But don't worry, with a T-tag, all Class 1 and Class 2 customers will enjoy discounted rates for every single passage. Plus, your 10th weekly trip through the same toll plaza is free. Visit transjamhighways.com for details. Get your T-tag today from any Highway 2000 East-West manual toll booth.
Employees of Sutherland, Jamaica are being advised that regular business operations resume on Friday, July 5, across all 5 locations. Transportation services have been arranged. Contact your direct manager to confirm your individual work resumption schedule. Sutherland, Jamaica understands the challenges and disruptions caused by the recent hurricane and express our sincere appreciation for your patience and resilience during this time. One Team Sutherland.
Continuing the news, the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, the CPFSA, has intervened in the situation involving 5 children who were rescued from Caribbean Terrace in Harbourview, St. Andrew during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Our news team had appealed for help for the children and their family after it became clear they were housed in a dilapidated house which would be unable to withstand the wind and waves associated with the coming hurricane. Dana Davey has more on this Nationwide News follow-up.
Our news team encountered the children and their parents on Wednesday, just 2 hours before Hurricane Beryl started battering Jamaica. One of the adults we encountered appealed for help relocating from the house. The structure was leaking and was being precariously held together by a combination of board and zinc. Sections of the roof were also falling in. The family was eventually rescued by the police and councillor for the Harbourview Division, Horace Clue. They were relocated to a nearby shelter to ride out the hurricane. The CPFSA was one of the first agencies to respond to the pleas from our news centre. 2 days after the hurricane's passage, the agency has provided an update on the situation. 3 of the children have now been taken into the care of the CPFSA. Laurette Adams-Thomas heads the agency.
Now, in the case of the family with the 4 children, the 3 younger children, ages 13, 10 and 7, were brought into the care of the CPFSA. The eldest child, a 17-year-old, actually lives with her other parent in St. Thomas and was visiting her mother at the time of the storm, and that child has since returned home. We have kept the 3 children together at one residential facility while the mother works on finding suitable living arrangements. We will also be offering whatever support we can to the mother through our Child and Family Support Unit.
Mrs. Adams-Thomas says one of the children has since been reunited with her parent.
The other mother, who is also a resident of Caribbean Terrace, was however not living at the same dilapidated house, but was living at a safer and more secure home in the community. And so we conducted a home assessment at that location and determined it to be suitable for her and her child, and they have since returned home.
The CPFSA is appealing to Jamaicans to report all cases of suspected child abuse or neglect directly to the agency by WhatsApp or by phone to 876-878-2882 and 876-822-7031. Dana Davey for Nationwide News.
The Spanish Town Hospital is refuting claims by a woman that a faulty generator led to the death of her grandchild during the passage of Hurricane Beryl on Wednesday. The grieving grandmother told Nationwide News on Friday that the baby was in neonatal intensive care when the system failed. But the chief executive officer at the hospital, Jacqueline Ellis, says it's not true. Shalois Michael has the story.
The baby was born premature. According to the woman, her grandchild died after the generator that was powering the incubator failed during the passage of the hurricane. To add insult to injury, the grandmother says her family was informed of the ordeal during a routine visit to the hospital.
My grandson died at Spanish Town Hospital due to lack of generator. The generator went down and the baby is premature. It was there for a month and the baby died on the night of the hurricane. My daughter is 17 years old. And the next thing, they didn't even call us to tell us that the baby died. They wait until my daughter came to the hospital before they even said that the baby died. She just went for a routine check. I went to the maternity ward just now to speak to someone. I was directed to the social work department. I went there. She said it's not her case. I need to speak to someone from customer service. However, when I speak to the lady from customer service, she did not tell me about the generator that went down. But then when I was coming out of the hospital, I can't say who I spoke to, but they told me that the generator went down and weren't working there.
But the CEO of the Spanish Town Hospital, Jacqueline Ellis, is dismissing the claims. She says the generator that serves the maternity unit did not fail.
At the Spanish Town Hospital, we have 3 generators, and the generator that serves the maternity unit and the accident and emergency department did not fail at no point in time. I was here every day throughout the period. That generator did not fail even for a second. I believe there was a death, but based on the claim, that is not true, and that is for certain.
Ms. Ellis says she will look into the circumstances surrounding the death of the baby. In the meantime, she's expressing condolences to the family for the loss of the child.
If there is any death, I know there is a challenge and there is the grieving and any loss for us at Spanish Town Hospital. It's an unhappy moment for us. When we care for our patients, we want everybody to get better and everybody to leave our facility. And so condolences to the family, even though I am not affair really with that case. But the management and staff really extend condolences to the family.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Labour's David Lammy has been named Britain's next Foreign Secretary. The centre-left Labour Party won a landslide victory in Thursday's parliamentary election, ending 14 years of Conservative government and vowing to bring change to Britain. 51-year-old Lammy is the son of Guyanese immigrants. Foreign Secretary is one of the so-called 4 great offices of the British state. The others are Prime Minister, Chancellor of the Exchequer and Home Secretary. The Chancellor is the Finance Minister and the Home Secretary is the Minister of National Security. Mr. Lammy faces a long list of domestic and international issues when he assumes office. Lammy has pledged to reset relations with the European Union and push for a ceasefire in Gaza while seeking to build ties with Donald Trump's Republican Party. Labour has said long-term peace and security in the Middle East would be an immediate focus. It has committed to recognizing a Palestinian state as a contribution to a renewed peace process that results in a 2-state solution.
And Britain's new Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has vowed to reverse the hopelessness that grew over 14 years of Conservative rule and lead an urgent mission of national renewal after his Labour Party's landslide victory. He's quoted as telling the British people in his first official remarks that they should have no doubt that the Labour Party will rebuild Britain. Brick by brick, he says, they will rebuild the infrastructure of opportunity. Starmer said it would take time, but his government would get the NHS back on its feet, secure the borders, improve public safety, and cut electric bills, all while relying on homegrown and clean energy. Before Starmer arrived at number 10, his predecessor Rishi Sunak bid farewell in a reflective speech from the same spot where he called for the snap election that led to his ouster.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, the country may have to access $4.5 billion from its disaster fund to respond to the passage of Hurricane Beryl.
The extent of the damage, as preliminarily and anecdotally assessed, will certainly mean that the government of Jamaica will have to draw on our contingency fund and the natural disaster fund. This totals $4.5 billion.
The damage to power lines in the parish of St. Elizabeth is 5 times worse than the rest of the island.
And the NWC says more than 300 water production facilities remain affected.
ODPEM says it's still assessing the extent of the damage caused by Hurricane Beryl.
I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Nora Gay Banton.
Listeners, you can find the news on our website at nationwideradiojm.com and on the Nationwide app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
News at 5 was brought to you by Fosrich Company Limited, fostering rich customer service.
Feeling stuck in endless paperwork to secure a small business loan from a bank? Access Financial Services can unlock your growth with an SME loan. Borrow up to $20 million with easy requirements and fast approvals. Whether you are ready to boost productive capacity, get working capital, or acquire real estate, say goodbye to the hassle and hello to growth. Grow your business with an SME loan up to $20 million from Access Financial Services. Call 876-929-9253 or visit accessfinanceonline.com. Conditions apply.
But you hear this? JPS a talk about patience. The hurricane gone already, man.
But know it frustrating, but them have to follow specific steps before them can restore power without no more problem than what the storm caused. First thing after the storm pass, them have to assess the damage to them system so the rest of the work can be done safely. Then them fix damage to the power plant and power line them and give back power to the hospital them, police station and other essential service. Only then can JPS move to everybody else.
Fine. Me can admit say that make little sense. But me no know if me can do without TikTok for much longer.
No worry about that. I have a couple 6 love for you. Make we play some domino.
JPS, powering what matters.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. Chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, SVREL, Solomon Sharp, says they experienced just minor damage to the premises at Caymanas Park during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Sharp says they're continuing their cleanup exercises.
Mother Nature came for some of its trees and some of its branches, but we have pruned up all the trees and slowly but surely getting the place together. The racetrack surface held up immaculately. Well, we all know that with the kind of surface that we have had and the kind of preparations that we have put it through over the years, that when we get good rainfall, it actually stands up well to that. So the winds that we got, we lost some rails. They were strewn all over the place. However, the team quickly got that started yesterday by 11 a.m.
SVREL has rescheduled the 2 race meetings for Saturday and Sunday. The race meeting that was scheduled for Saturday, the St. Ledger Day, will be run on Sunday. Meanwhile, the race meeting that was scheduled for Sunday will be run on Monday. Sharp says the dates were rescheduled to give everyone the best race day experience.
The circumstances in which the horses missed exercise on Wednesday morning and what the trainers would need to do to risk mitigate against that. No exercise on Thursday. We decided to just ensure that we gave them an extra day. The St. Ledger race is a very important part of the Triple Crown, and that extra day of exercise in between the preparation would have done them well. They had missed that day. Under the circumstances in which they have missed that day, it would have been a little bit more difficult for them. But we're very sensitive to everybody across the length and breadth of Jamaica, and we know that there would have been some devastation, especially for our good friends over in St. Elizabeth. One OTB that has been around forever, Charles OTB in Mandeville, suffered extensive damage. So we wanted to also give our ecosystem a chance to get back on their feet, so to speak.
SVREL Chairman Solomon Sharp. The three-day warm-up game between West Indies and first-class County 11 ended in a predictable draw at Beckingham in England today. Chasing 163 to win on the rain-affected third day, the County 11 reached 30 for 2 when play was called off. Jamal Richards 6 and Harry Singh, who failed to score, were the batsmen dismissed. Hamza Sheikh were out unbeaten on 17 and Bertie Foreman 2 not out. Resuming on 57 for 2, the Windies declared their second innings on 196 for 5. Alec Athanaze was unbeaten on 66. Joshua De Silva 51 not out, and Mikhail Louis, he made 28. Final scores: West Indies at 339 and 196 for 5 declared. The County 11 373 for 4 declared and 30 for 2. The West Indies will face England in the first of 3 test matches starting on July 10. The game to be played at Lord's. 2019 NCAA champion Janique Brown says she surprised herself in qualifying for her first Olympic Games. Brown booked her ticket to Paris in 2024. After a 4-year break from the sport, she qualified after a third-place finish at the National Championships in 12.61 seconds in the hurdles. And she says the only instruction she received from her coach before the race was to trust her training.
Right now, I'm not sure what's next. My coach just told me to come out here and just trust myself and trust the coaching, because he knew I was going through some mental stuff. I don't know, I gotta go around there and he gotta tell me what's next, because I didn't see myself coming this far. It's not about the time, I'm pleased with my position, because I can always do better time-wise going into the championship that really matters. Things, and not even just what you see on the track, off the track. I can do a lot of that better off the track with my diet, with just my mental training.
That's Janique Brown. Finally in sports at this time, former champions France and Spain have set up what's expected to be an epic semi-final showdown at the Euro 2024 tournament in Germany with nervous quarter-final victories today. The French came through a gripping 4-3 penalty shootout win over another ex-champion Portugal at the Volkspark Stadion in Hamburg after they failed to break each other down after regular and extra time. Spain has been the hottest team at the tournament so far, and they broke German hearts with a minute to go in extra time. Mikel Merino headed in to give them a 2-1 victory.
Yamal, the next generation. That's it! Dani Olmo! Spain strike early in the second half. Dani Olmo. Mikel Merino! In the 120th minute, Mikel Merino surely puts Spain into the semi-final. All right, and as I mentioned, France won their game by 4-3 on penalties. The last 2 semi-final spots will be known tomorrow. England will take on Switzerland at 11 o'clock in Jamaica, and the Netherlands will battle Turkey at 2 o'clock. And before we go to the Olympic fact, the nationwide Olympic fact, and it's sponsored by Fontana Pharmacy.
This is Nationwide's Olympic Facts, brought to you by Fontana Pharmacy. It's all good inside.
Did you know that only one of the 88 medals won by Jamaican athletes in Olympic history has come outside track and field? Yes, that's a fact. At 23 years old, David Weller won bronze in the men's 1 kilometer cycling time trial at the 1980 Games in Moscow.
That was Nationwide's Olympic Facts, brought to you by Fontana Pharmacy. It's all good inside.
21 days to go before the start of the Games of the 33rd Olympiad in Paris, France. Make it a nationwide summer with the Olympic Games, the exclusive radio broadcasters of the event here in Jamaica. We're going to be back with more sports at 6:05.
You didn't know that the government decreased JUTC bus fares? Yes, it's now 70 for adults, 25 for children, and 30 for pensioners. And in April, fares will go down even further to 50 for adults, 20 for children, and 25 for pensioners.
The temperature by the office of the Prime Minister is
30 degrees Celsius in Kingston and Montego Bay.
You can still go through quicker and cheaper with a T-tag under the new toll rate structure. Effective July 6, there will be some changes to the toll rates at the Portmore, Spanish Town, Vineyards and Maypen toll plazas. But don't worry, with a T-tag, all Class 1 and Class 2 customers will enjoy discounted rates for every single passage. Plus, your 10th weekly trip through the same toll plaza is free. Visit transjamhighways.com for details. Get your T-tag today from any Highway 2000 East-West manual toll booth.
Is your strata filing its annual returns? In keeping with the Registration Strata Titles Act, strata corporations are required to submit an audited financial statement or a copy of its accounts, prepared in keeping with generally accepted accounting principles, signed by the chairman and at least one other member of the executive committee. This must be submitted annually to the Commission of Strata Corporations within 120 days after the end of the financial year. For more information, contact the Commission of Strata Corporations at 926-9748-9.
The Jamaica Customs Agency is advising our customers and all other stakeholders that we have resumed full operations at all our air and seaports and at our head and corporate offices following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. You may therefore proceed to conduct transactions with the agency at our various locations once it is safe to do so. You may also request our contactless clearance process for clearing non-commercial shipments, as well as our mobile app, JA Customs Connect, to make payments to customs. As we recover from the effects of Hurricane Beryl, let's do so with the resilience that characterizes us as a people. Continue to follow us on social media for customs-related information. The JCA remains committed to serving you with excellence. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Feeling stuck in endless paperwork to secure a small business loan from a bank? Access Financial Services can unlock your growth with an SME loan. Borrow up to $20 million with easy requirements and fast approvals. Whether you are ready to boost productive capacity, get working capital, or acquire real estate, say goodbye to the hassle and hello to growth. Grow your business with an SME loan up to $20 million from Access Financial Services. Call 876-929-9253 or visit accessfinanceonline.com. Conditions apply.
Good evening, good afternoon, rather. Good afternoon to you.
Eager to have the day over, I see.
It up. It's a Friday thing. I think it's a Friday thing. Good afternoon to you, listeners. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide at 5. It's time for the cover story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Siobhan Campbell.
How are you?
I'm doing quite well.
Good. The Finance Minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, says the country may well have to tap into the first two layers of its disaster mitigation financing in response to the damage caused by Hurricane Beryl. These are the Contingency Fund and the Natural Disaster Fund, through which a combined sum of $4.5 billion can be accessed.
The Finance Minister says while Jamaica is fortunate that Hurricane Beryl did not make landfall, parts of the country suffered significant damage. He says the government may also have to access the next layer, which consists of a contingent credit claim with the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB. Dr. Clark says he's already initiated the process for this access. The total value of that instrument is $46 billion. Dr. Clark will now join us to discuss further the various measures that we have in place to finance potential disasters. Good afternoon, Dr. Clark.
Good afternoon, Dr. Clark.
Good afternoon, Siobhan. And is it Ricardo?
It is.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Clark, right off, the $4.5 billion that we must potentially access, has that been confirmed? We've breached those first two layers?
Right. So the first 4.5 billion, that represents resources that the government of Jamaica put away some time ago, a few years ago, in anticipation of circumstances such as these. So what we have done is to issue instructions to the accountant general to make $4 billion of that available. It doesn't mean that we will use all of it. We have to be very prudent with resources, given that this is the first hurricane of the season. But it's available for us to be used by. It's cash.
Mm-hmm. And I want you to talk to the Jamaican people, Dr. Clark, about the thinking that went into setting up this kind of layered process, such that we can be able to call on it now.
Yes, the thinking is that we have to learn from our experiences, and one of the central lessons over the past 40 or 50 years is that Jamaica has suffered from pronounced levels of economic volatility, of going up and down, and when we go down, it takes much too long to get back. A part of that reason, what explains that in part, is that we haven't had the counter-cyclical measure, the counter-cyclical wherewithal to respond to crises as they occur, and therefore shorten the duration of the down period and quicken recovery. In recognition of that, we set out to address that problem in multiple ways. Disaster risk is only one way in which we are seeking to dampen economic volatility in Jamaica. So the idea is that in terms of dampening economic volatility that's caused by the impact of natural disaster, what you do is to pre-finance the likely emergency cost of natural disaster so that you can immediately attack the problem, but do so in a way that does not destabilize your economy. So we are in a position that all of these instruments that I have listed are instruments that we signed to and signed up for some time ago. And those are all agreed to, all the documentation, all done and agreed to. And it's just a matter of, an occurrence of the natural disaster that triggers the availability of these resources. So the thinking behind it, Ricardo, is born of our economic history, and one where we want to dampen the economic volatility that Jamaica has experienced and instead usher in a period where we can have longer and longer stretches of economic growth.
I applaud the foresight, Dr. Clark. How do we ensure that in spending these what we can agree are very large sums, how do we ensure that we get accountability in terms of how this money is spent in responding to the crisis?
The first thing is that we must only spend what is needed to be spent. This does not provide permission for the government to spend freely. It has to be expenditure that is geared towards, in a sustainable way, addressing the impact of the disaster. And as far as spending from the consolidated fund, ultimately all of that expenditure will go through Parliament. So there will be, obvious transparency in that regard.
And Dr. Clark, let's clarify. So these are as you said, pre-finance arrangements, meaning these are not the same as loans that in the past we would have to take out as part of a disaster recovery.
So one of the layers definitely involves a loan, meaning that it would require, but a loan that's pre-financed in the sense that normally in the past what would happen is the disaster has happened and now you begin to scramble, right, and negotiate loan agreements. The worst time to negotiate a loan agreement is when you're in a crisis, when you really need the money, right? So what we'd be doing now is, calling up and you have to go get board approval for the institution. It takes months to get, stuff approved, even on an expedited basis. In one of our layers that has a contingent loan, all of the terms are agreed years ago, well in advance, approved by a board and by the relevant board, and it just requires a natural disaster occurrence for it to be drawn. That's just one of the layers. The other layers involve insurance, proceeds where there is payout that doesn't have to be paid back.
And do you anticipate that in that kind of situation, it strengthens the government hand in that you're not going to the table in a mode of desperation where you have to accept any kind of terms?
That is exactly right. So going into this storm, whether this storm hit Jamaica or not, thank God it didn't. But there was a sense of calm and a sense of ease because the financing that we would likely need has been arranged. And so, as you rightly say, our bargaining position has not weakened in any way because, we've already, the funds are available. It just depends on the size of the impact. So, as opposed to countries that find themselves in the wake of a disaster when you are at your weakest point, right? If you think about a severe natural disaster, your airports are closed, you have no revenue coming in from tourism, your tax offices are closed, and
Yes.
at that point, you want to persuade somebody to lend you money?
Yes.
Well, you know what kind of terms you're likely to get, even from the multilaterals. And even, after you've gotten those terms, the procedure for having it approved, the number of layers it has to go through and ultimately approved by a board in Washington can take months.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have done here is to prearrange all of that. All of the financing is arranged beforehand. So we enter the crisis knowing the likely envelope of expenditure, and within days after, we can concretize that, have access to it. And then the only thing that's necessary after that is to make sure that we prudently apply those resources. And we don't feel that we have to use everything that is there. Not because it's there means it has to be used.
Especially because this is just the first hurricane.
Exactly. In fact, the ideology that one ought to have is you hope you don't need to use it, right? The purpose of having it is to hope you don't need to use it. So it's not so that's the approach that we're taking, and that's the approach that we have taken to put ourselves in a stronger position than we have been in the past, with respect to the occurrences of natural disasters such as these.
Mm-hmm. Hold it there for us, Dr. Clark. After the break, I want you to help us understand now the catastrophe bond as distinct from the other two. After the break.
Need to make a change to your title or need a title? Geoland Title Limited. They do lost title application, add and remove names from titles, wills, estates. First-time registration land surveys also included. Affordable rates and flexible payment options. NLA adjudication and land titling waivers also available. They have 8 locations island-wide. Call 876-754-6436 or visit their website at geolandonline.com. Geoland Title Limited. Secure your land, secure your title.
Presenting another finalist in the 2024 Jamaica Festival Song Competition.
This is Lorenza Rowe, otherwise known as Renza. The title of my song is Wamba Jamaica.
Wami, wami, wamba Jamaica. Gimme, 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 gimme back Jamaica. I mean, I want too much foreign culture. No for them I come in like a vulture. Wami, wami, wamba Jamaica.
Jamaica Festival 2024.
The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, is reminding the public to take the following precautionary measures as we prepare for a hurricane. Be ready to evacuate if you live in low-lying or flood-prone areas. Decide early on evacuation routes. Avoid flooded waterways such as fords, gullies, streams, or rivers, either on foot or in vehicles. Avoid where necessary areas prone to landslides and flooding. The public is being asked to continue to monitor the media space for further advisories and should take the necessary safety precautions as issued by the ODPEM, Meteorological Service of Jamaica, and the Jamaica Information Service.
Employees of Sutherland, Jamaica are being advised that regular business operations resume on Friday, July 5, across all 5 locations. Transportation services have been arranged. Contact your direct manager to confirm your individual work resumption schedule. Sutherland, Jamaica understands the challenges and disruptions caused by the recent hurricane and express our sincere appreciation for your patience and resilience during this time. One Team Sutherland.
Thank you so much for staying with us here on Nationwide at 5. It's the cover story, and we're getting a sense of the country's disaster mitigation financing, what we have available to us following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. We have with us the Minister of Finance, who has been explaining the sort of contingency and, I dare say, resilience strategies that have been built up by the administration. He has so far explained to us the contingency fund and the natural disaster fund, a combined sum of $4.5 billion, stressing that we have to be prudent with how it's spent and explaining the mechanisms for accountability by way of the Parliament. But there also is the catastrophe bond. That's correct, Dr. Clark?
Yes, catastrophe bond is the highest layer, the top layer of our multi-layered framework. Correct.
And how does that one work? What triggers it?
Okay. So first, let me just say that the way in which our multi-layered process ought to work is that it's not designed nor is it expected that all storms will trigger all layers. However, the idea is that you should be able to access resources from one of the layers or more than one for every storm.
Okay.
Right? So the top layer is the catastrophe bond, and that is geared towards Category 5 or high-intensity Category 4 hurricanes making landfall on Jamaica. Yeah? So, and by landfall, what do we mean? We mean the trajectory of the center of the hurricane passing over the land of Jamaica. Beryl, on Monday, looked as if it was going to make landfall in Jamaica and pass over Jamaica. However, as it got closer, it veered south of Jamaica, I believe 45 miles south of Kingston, and its intensity had eased as compared to the intensity that it displayed when it was in the mid-Caribbean Sea. As a result of those two variables, the cat bond did not trigger. Had, however, this same lower intensity storm traversed the landmass of Jamaica, it certainly would have triggered. Or had it maintained its intensity and still had this suddenly passed, it would also have triggered. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Dr. Clark, the catastrophe bond is quite unique, though. It's an investment instrument because I saw a report in Bloomberg today saying that investors should breathe a sigh of relief because the catastrophe bond in Jamaica will not be triggered. Can you explain the unique arrangements for that one?
All right, so the catastrophe bond is an insurance product. Insurance products are provided by, private sector insurance companies, right? Who are in a business to make a profit, albeit taking a risk. The catastrophe bonds rise out of the reality that the capital available in the global insurance industry is insufficient to provide the contingency protection for all of the risks that exist in the world. Right? So the insurance market is just too small. And as a result, for some of this kind of protection, we have to tap into the capital markets, which are much, much larger. Just to give you by way of comparison, it is said that the total capital, and by capital I mean the equity capital, meaning the owner's capital, so to speak, of the sort of global insurance industry is, it's under $1 trillion. I think it's about 600 or 700 billion US dollars. Well, 600 billion US dollars represents the loss in global stock markets from, a dip in one day. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right. So the capital markets, the global capital markets, are immense in size as compared to the capital that insurance companies have. So what the cat bond allows us to do is to bypass insurance companies and tap into investors in the broad and deep and large capital markets who are looking for investments that are that help them with diversification away from traditional investments such as equities and bonds and real estate.
And I suppose that, sorry, finish the thought.
Yes. So what happens is they put money up. How it works is they put capital up. The capital sits in escrow in the World Bank, all of it, and we pay a premium. And if a storm meets the criteria, then that capital is paid out. Now, the people who invest in these kinds of instruments invest in a variety of them. Cat bonds in Mexico for earthquake, in Jamaica for hurricane, in Japan for fire, in Florida, and they invest in scores of catastrophe bonds around the world, all of which can't trigger at the same time. So a portfolio approach is taken, and their hope is that on a portfolio basis, even though they may lose on an instrument here or there on a portfolio basis, they'll be able to make, a return that exceeds the cost of capital.
And so my next question was going to be, Dr. Clark, how unique is this kind of arrangement for a small island state like ours?
Okay. Jamaica became the first and only small island country in the world to independently sponsor a catastrophe bond. And what is more, the catastrophe bond that we have, we are the only country in the world to sponsor what we call a cat in the grid. In other words, Jamaica has pioneered that approach. And allow me a few seconds to explain it to you. What our approach entails is the landmass of Jamaica and the surrounding waters are divided into 19 squares and some of them triangles. And in each of those figures, which are contiguous, each of those figures is associated with a centralized air pressure. And just for your listeners' edification, the intensity of a hurricane is inversely proportional to the centralized air pressure, i.e., the more intense the hurricane, the lower the centralized air pressure. Right? So unlike wind speed goes up with intensity, it's opposite with air pressure, it goes down. So each of those grids is associated with a centralized air pressure. And if the hurricane goes through those grids, or the center of the hurricane goes through those grids, and the air pressure of the hurricane at the time they go through those grids is lower than that threshold, then the cat bond triggers. So, for example, the grid over Kingston, the centralized air pressure is 968 millibars. The centralized air pressure of this hurricane, when it came 45 miles south of Kingston, was 959, which is what I'm saying. If had it come over Kingston, it would have triggered. Over Clarendon, it is 960 millibars. So had it landed there, it would have triggered as well. So that is how it works. But just to give you contextual information, Hurricane Ivan had a pressure of 929 millibars. So it was a very high intensity storm. And Hurricane Dean had centralized air. Sorry, Hurricane Ivan was 923. Hurricane Dean was 927. Really high intensity storms. However, Hurricane Gilbert was 960 millibars, but it passed over the landmass of Jamaica. And all of those hurricanes would have triggered our cat bond.
So that then is the history informing the decisions now and looking forward to the future.
Yes. So to model something like this and to price it is highly quantitative. And we obviously, Jamaica is advised by firms who specialize in this area, and the World Bank has been a critical partner. But how the mechanism by which these are constructed involves a lot of modeling using historical data. Virtually every single storm that has ever arisen in the Atlantic is in a database. Its path is known, its pressure and its wind speeds are known, and so the probabilities are assigned. But this instrument was designed and back-tested such that Ivan would have triggered it, Dean would have triggered it, Gilbert would have triggered it, obviously Charlie would have definitely triggered it. And in the case of Ivan and Dean, they were not direct hits. Right. Those were hurricanes that came off the coast, but they were so intense. As I said, the centralized air pressure was 900 in the 920s. Hurricane Beryl, at its most intense, its centralized air pressure was about 938 when it was in the Eastern Caribbean, and that's when it really looked as if, my God, this is going to be a serious problem for Jamaica. Thankfully, it started out in the 930s in the Eastern Caribbean in terms of its centralized air pressure, but by the time it made it into our waters, the centralized air pressure was about 959, moving on to 960, which was a lower intense storm.
Thank you, Dr. Clark, for your time. We're up onto the news.
However, I will say on your program for the first time, I did say in my release that by Friday evening we would get more information on our tropical cyclone policy with the Caribbean Catastrophe Reinsurance Facility. I've been preliminarily advised that policy is likely to have been triggered. The payout will be probably in the order of just a few $1 billion. So that is in the context of the hurricane already having passed. It's good news that another instrument is going to be triggered.
Yeah. And listeners, we thought it important for you to understand the kind of disaster mitigation financing the government has in place, because we received the questions. People wanted to understand it. And so we invited the man here to explain it to you. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Clark. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. The headlines are next.
Say hello to peace of mind and goodbye to worry with Guardian Life's new Ultimate Provider Plan, and secure your medical expenses in the event of critical illness today. Call 888-367-5433 for details.
The time by Guardian Life is
6:01.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. With the headlines at 6, I'm Shalois Michael. Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark says the country may well have to tap into the first two layers of its disaster mitigation financing in response to the damage caused by Hurricane Beryl.
The government of Jamaica has strategically put in place a multi-layered set of financial instruments to pre-finance the emergency response and recovery costs of natural disasters. While it is neither expected nor designed that all storms will trigger all instruments, the idea is that we should always be able to access resources from some instruments for every storm. As such, the extent of the damage, as preliminarily and anecdotally assessed, will certainly mean that the government of Jamaica will have to draw on all of the resources available in the first two layers, our contingency fund and the natural disaster fund. This totals $4.5 billion.
The finance minister says the government may also have to access the next layer, which consists of a contingent credit claim with the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB. Dr. Clark says he's already initiated the process for this access.
While the maximum amount under this layer for the most severe natural disasters is approximately $46 billion, it will take a few days to ascertain exactly how much of this barrel will trigger, as well as how much we will need.
Dr. Nigel Clark, Minister of Finance. The damage to power lines in the parish of St. Elizabeth caused by Hurricane Beryl is 5 times worse than the rest of the island. That's according to Chairman and Interim CEO of the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, Damian Obiglio.
St. Elizabeth, we haven't been able to inspect 100% of our lines. There are only 20%, and the damages that we have seen in 20% are 5 times that we have seen in any other part of the country. So St. Elizabeth is going to require a very dedicated and intensive actions to be restored back to service. We expect to try to finish the assessment between today and tomorrow morning in that most affected area of the country.
According to the JPS chairman, the light and power company has so far restored service to 45% of its customers across the island. He says the JPS will be working with other utility companies to meet the demands of the affected customers.
We have the requests, of course, of all our sister utilities, NWC number 1, and of course they are in our priority list. And we will have cases in which we will prioritize one pump and we clear the way like a highway to supply that pump, and maybe we leave customers on the side just because of the priorities. So I ask our customers again to bear with us on that. So by early this morning, we had 80% of the customers of Kingston, St. Andrew, St. James, St. Thomas, and St. Catherine on.
Damian Obiglio, chairman of JPS. Meanwhile, Energy Minister Darrell Vaz says international partners have offered to assist Jamaica with recovery efforts following the passage of Hurricane Beryl.
There is precedent for those of us who are old enough to remember 1988, Hurricane Gilbert, where offers were made for assistance in recovery, specifically to the restoration of electricity. I've already received calls from CARICOM and from other international partners who are ready and waiting. So we will be putting in place and getting all the information that is required and putting a team to work with JPS to make sure that if there's any issue of resource challenges, that can be dealt with as a matter of urgency. I've been assured by the chairman as of this morning that they are comfortable and satisfied, but that has to be translated to the citizenry.
Minister Vaz says he expects to see a heavy presence of JPS workers across the island as efforts are made to restore power. He directed that utility companies give separate attention to parishes severely affected by the hurricane.
We have an issue with the hardest impacted area, which is parts of Manchester, St. Elizabeth and Clarendon that have not been able to be properly accessed, and therefore what I have asked is that be separated and updates be given on that as you go along with the assessment. But in the meantime, what you can report on in terms of the other parishes on a parish by parish basis with specific information.
Darrell Vaz, Energy Minister. Authorities are searching for a 10-year-old girl and a 20-year-old man who they believe may have drowned at Sugarman's Beach in St. Catherine on Thursday. Head of the JCF's Corporate Communications Network, CCN, Senior Superintendent Stephanie Lindsay, confirmed the details with her news center on Friday.
2 persons, 20-year-old male and a 10-year-old child, drowned in that incident, and that's at the Sugarman's Beach. They understand that the persons were actually at the beach when they encountered some difficulties, and they have not been seen since. So we're looking at it as a possible case of drowning.
It's understood that the child was in the water with other people when she encountered the difficulty. The man allegedly went into the water to help rescue the child when he too encountered some problems. SSP Lindsay says the search continues. She says a body has been recovered from a nearby beach, but the police are still ascertaining the identity of that individual.
We have a team out there for morning, search and rescue team comprising JCF, JDF and other support services, trying to see if they can locate them. So far, we have not managed to find them just yet, so the search continues. There's another case where a body washed up in the Bridgemount area there is unidentified, so we continue to carry out that investigation as well as searching for the 2 persons.
SSP Lindsay says no one has been arrested in relation to the incident. She's advising citizens against venturing into any body of water in the direct aftermath of a hurricane.
We just want to re-emphasize the importance of safety. Certainly now is not the time to be venturing in any gully, river, or going to the beach because the conditions are very unstable and not conducive to persons going to the beach and guaranteed to be safe because of what is happening now. So we just want persons to just pay attention to the bulletins and to apply the necessary safety precautions.
SSP Stephanie Lindsay, head of CCN. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Sports is next.
It's time for a new look. And high time to get serious about protecting our home and investment.
It's time to choose BH Paints with over 60 years experience in quality paint finishes. Their products are superior and long-lasting.
Time to check them out.
Ask about BH Paint's 100% acrylic Ultima Plus paint and primer in one. Experience rich colors with advanced UV and mildew-resistant technologies, independently tested by experts. What are you waiting for? Visit a BH Paints Color Center today.
The Office of the Information Commissioner, OIC, is Jamaica's data protection regulator. We're here to ensure large and small, public and private data controllers comply with the Data Protection Act. All data controllers must register with the OIC and process personal data in accordance with the law. Help us create a data-safe society for all. For more information, call us at 876-929-6952. Visit our website at oic.gov.jm. The OIC, your data, your rights protected.
Want to pursue your dreams of higher education without financial stress? At the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, we believe in making education accessible for all. We're excited to share that the Students' Loan Bureau no longer requires guarantors for access to SLB loans at UCC. That's right, no more hassle finding a guarantor. And that's not all. Payments can be deferred until after graduation. To learn more, visit the UCC website at www.ucc.edu.jm. UCC, fostering leadership and innovation.
Me know me did a clown you about getting hurricane ready and everything. But yesterday my member said the last hurricane we come, we did have a whole heap of problem because we never prepare or listen to your safety advice.
It's a shame, so you have to learn your lesson. But 3 things you can do this time is 1, have a licensed electrician, check the wiring to ensure them fine. 2, trim trees near power lines and remove danger trees that could fall on lines. But call JPS if your trees are already touching the power lines, okay? And 3, make sure that everybody know where the circuit breaker is in case you don't need to turn off the power.
Alright. Me go try do them here this time. And me will stay inside if one come. Me remember say one zinc flyer almost chop me last hurricane.
Yes, and turn off and plug out all electronics and appliances, especially if there is lightning.
Me go deal with it, man.
JPS, powering what matters.
Good evening, with your sports report. I am Alric Swaby. We start with horse racing as chairman of Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited, SVREL, Solomon Sharp, says they experienced minor damage to the premises at Caymanas Park during the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Sharp says they are continuing their cleanup exercise.
Mother Nature came for some of its trees and some of its branches, but we have pruned up all the trees and slowly but surely getting the place together. The racetrack surface held up immaculately. Well, we all know that with the kind of surface that we have had and the kind of preparations that we have put it through over the years, that when we get good rainfall, it actually stands up well to that. With the winds that we got, we lost some rails. They were strewn all over the place. However, the team quickly got that sorted yesterday by 11 a.m.
SVREL has rescheduled the 2 races meeting on Saturday and Sunday. The race meeting that was scheduled for Saturday, St. Leger Day, will be run on Sunday. Meanwhile, the race meeting that was scheduled for Sunday will be run on Monday. Sharp says the dates were rescheduled to give everyone the best race experience.
The circumstances in which the horses missed exercise on Wednesday morning and what the trainers would need to do to risk mitigate against that. No exercise on Thursday. We decided to just ensure that we gave them an extra day. The St. Leger race is a very important part of the Triple Crown, and that extra day of exercise in between the preparation would have done them well. They had missed that day. Under the circumstances in which they have missed that day, it would have been a little bit more difficult for them. But we're very sensitive to everybody across the length and breadth of Jamaica, and we know that there would have been some devastation, especially for our good friends over in St. Elizabeth. One OTB that has been around forever, Charles OTB in Mandeville, suffered extensive damage. So we wanted to also give our ecosystem a chance to get back on their feet, so to speak.
Solomon Sharp. He joins us tomorrow on Sports Nation Live to give us some more information on St. Leger Day. Now on to cricket, as the 3-day warm-up match between West Indies and first-class County 11 ended in a draw at Beckenham in England today. Chasing 163 to win on the rain-affected third day, the County 11 reached 30 for 2 when play was called off. Jamal Richards, 6, and Harry Singh, who failed to score, are the batsmen dismissed. Hamza Shaikh were unbeaten on 17 and Bertie Foreman 2 not out. Resuming on 57 for 2, the Windies declared their second innings on 196 for 5. Alec Athanes was unbeaten on 66, Joshua De Silva 51 not out, and Malik Lewis made 28. Final scores: West Indies 339 and 196 for 5 declared, County 11 373 for 4 declared, and 30 for 2. The West Indies will face England in the first of 3 tests starting July 10. Now on to track and field, as 2019 NCAA champion Yannick Brown says she surprised herself in qualifying for her first Olympic. Brown booked her ticket to Paris 2024 after a 4-year break from the sport. She qualified after a third-place finish in a time of 12.61 seconds in the women's 100 meters hurdles final at the National Senior Championships. Brown says the only instruction she received from her coach before the race was to trust her training.
Right now, I'm not sure what's next. My coach just told me to come out here and just trust myself and trust the coaching, because he knew I was going through some mental stuff. I don't know, I gotta go around there and he gotta tell me what's next, because I didn't see myself coming this far. It's not about the time, I'm pleased with my position, because I can always do better time-wise going into the championship that really matters. Things, and not even just what you see on the track, off the track. I can do a lot of that better off the track with my diet, with just my mental training.
Yannick Brown. Now, Kishane Thomas's 9.77 seconds to win the men's 100 meters final at the National Championships makes him the joint 9th fastest man over the distance. The other is Kenya's Ferdinand Omanyala. Thompson is also the 4th fastest Jamaican over 100 meters. Only Usain Bolt's world record of 9.58 seconds, Ewan Blake 9.69 and Asafa Powell 9.72 as Jamaicans have gone faster. Speaking on Bailey running things, double Olympic gold medalist Donovan Bailey says Thompson could go faster at the Paris Olympics.
Oblique Seville was out and he was running, and Kishane ran past him like he was in the stands, dude, and then shut it down. So I'm saying to you that this kid has the ability, and I'm telling you this now, he has the ability to run 9.6 in Paris, and that would not surprise me. There's no chance that Stephen Francis will have his athletes speaking for the Jamaican trials. There is no chance. In my career, Dan never had me peaking at trials, ever. I believe that he had Kishane training through the trials. I don't think that he has him ready yet. I don't think that's the ready Kishane Thompson. I think he's going to have the ready Kishane Thompson in Paris.
Bailey says Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp may awaken a sleeping giant with their comments on their podcast.
This USA rival versus Jamaica rivalry, all of that stuff, and I saw Stephen A. Smith and Shannon Sharp, letting the world know that the competition between America and Jamaica, it was done because of how Noah Lyles and Bednarik and Arian Knighton performed in the U.S., that it was over. But my man, you got to understand, as a culture, you just need to go to Jamaica to actually understand it. And the last thing you want to do is light that fire, because although you have 350 million people versus 3 million people, and your idea is that we're fighting with just sticks, you got another thing coming.
Donovan Bailey. Now on to football. As former champions France and Spain have set up what's expected to be an epic semi-final showdown at the Euro 2024 tournament in Germany with nervous quarter-final victories today. The French came through a gripping 4-3 penalty shootout win over another ex-champion Portugal at the Volkspark Stadion in Hamburg after they failed to break each other down after regular and extra time.
It's Dembele against Costa, and he scores. So Costa is human in penalty shootouts after all. Is there ice in the veins of the Portugal captain? Yes, there is. And Fofana scores. Bernardo Silva, top corner, brilliant. You cannot save those. Wow. Kunde, that's a great penalty. Short run-up. Oh, it's in the post! Joao Felix hits the post. It's advantage France in the shootout. Costa waits. Costa can't get there. Barcola smashes it in. 4-2 France. Mendes versus Mania. And he scores into the top corner. How's your bottle? That's how your bottle is. He's the coolest man in the room. Teo Hernandez versus Diogo Costa. And he scores! And France win! and France will play Spain in the semi-finals in Munich. Theo Hernandez the hero, and France march on.
Now, Spain has been the hottest team at the tournament so far, and they broke German hearts with a minute to go in extra time when Mikel Merino headed in to give Spain a 2-1 victory.
Yamal, the next generation. That's it! Dani Olmo! Spain strike early in the second half. Dani Olmo. Mikel Merino! In the 120th minute, Mikel Merino surely puts Spain into the semi-final.
The last two semi-final spots will be known tomorrow when England tackles Switzerland at 11 a.m. and the Netherlands battle Turkey at 2. Now on to tennis, as Britain's Emma Raducanu made a strong statement of intent by dismantling Greek 9th seed Maria Sakkari to reach the Wimbledon 4th round. Raducanu again showcased some of her best tennis in a 6-2, 6-3 win. And finally, it's now time for the Nationwide Olympic Fact, sponsored by Rainforest Caribbean.
This is Nationwide's Olympic Facts, brought to you by Rainforest Caribbean. Make delicious moments.
Did you know that Janelle Atkinson was the first Jamaican female swimmer to reach an Olympic final? Yes, that's a fact. Atkinson made history on September 17 at age 17 at the 2000 Sydney Olympics. Competing in the 400 meters freestyle, she set the national record of 4 minutes 09.61 seconds to be third from the qualifying rounds. In the final, she placed fourth in a still-standing national record of 4 minutes 08.79 seconds. She was not only the first Jamaican woman, but also the first Caribbean woman to make that final.
That was Nationwide's Olympic Facts, brought to you by Rainforest Caribbean. Make delicious moments.
There you have it, Nationwide Olympic Fact, sponsored by Rainforest Caribbean. I'm Alric Swiby, and that's your sports.
For all your scales and food processing equipment, call Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited at 876-968-9612-5. The time by Advanced Scales and Equipment Limited is
6:22.
For hard-to-get medications, over-the-counter and chemotherapy drugs, visit Dean's Pharmacy Pepin. When others don't have it, we do. Dean's Pharmacy. Feeling better starts right here.
The temperature by Dean's Pharmacy, feeling better starts right here, is
28 degrees Celsius in City Kingston and 30 in Montego Bay.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
The Office of the Information Commissioner, OIC, is Jamaica's data protection regulator. We're here to ensure large and small, public and private data controllers comply with the Data Protection Act. All data controllers must register with the OIC and process personal data in accordance with the law. Help us create a data-safe society for all. For more information, call us at 876-929-6952. Visit our website at oic.gov.jm. The OIC, your data, your rights protected.
But you hear this? JPS talk about patience. The hurricane gone already, man.
But know it frustrating, but them have to follow specific steps before them can restore power without no more problem than with the storm cause. First thing after the storm pass, them have to assess the damage to them system so the rest of the work can be done safely. Then, them fix damage to the power plant and power line them and give back power to the hospital them, police station and other essential service. Only then can JPS move to everybody else.
Fine. Me can admit say that make little sense. But me don't know if me can do without TikTok for much longer.
No worry about that. I have a couple six love for you. Make we play some domino.
JPS, powering what matters.
With so much to do in one location, make Megamart your one-stop shop. Pick up your groceries and houseware needs, grab a bite and pay some bills, fill your prescriptions and see the beauty products in our pharmacy. All in one amazing location. My Megamart, the best value by far.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Dana Davey. A special good evening to our friends on YouTube. We invite you to also weigh in live in the comments section on today's Public Opinion. So parts of the country are this evening still reeling from the effects of Hurricane Beryl. Beryl ravaged sections of St. Elizabeth, Manchester and Clarendon on Wednesday. The three parishes were hit by heavy rain and strong winds for up to 12 hours. The Category 4 storm left a trail of devastation in St. Elizabeth with damage to houses, infrastructure and businesses. Scores of light poles hosting power lines fell in the strong wind. Chairman and interim CEO of the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS, Damian Obiglio, says only 20% of the power lines in the parish have so far been assessed. He says JPS has so far restored service to 45% of its customers across the island. He notes that emergency facilities have been prioritized.
We were able to maintain some areas in the east, especially in the corporate area, St. Catherine, south of Clarendon, with supply. And I can say now that we have 45% of the customers with power, 315,000 customers. So what are our priorities now? It's all what is called the emergency and critical facilities. Hospital, airports. We connected the two airports yesterday. That was one of the priorities. Hospitals. We connected a lot of the hospitals yesterday, but the ones we couldn't reach, like the ones that are located in the south coast, we were sure and we checked them by 8 p.m. that they have enough fuel to go through the next 48 hours.
That's the voice of Damian Obiglio. He's the chairman and interim CEO of JPS. He says the company will be working with other utility companies to meet the demands of affected customers. Meanwhile, telecoms company Digicel says it has completed 117 repair jobs to its network following the passage of Beryl. Of the repair work completed, 75 was in Kingston, 21 in Portmore, and 21 in Spanish Town. Digicel says 39 repair jobs are still in progress. The company also says its crew is en route to 22 remaining sites. And Flow says it will take the company 2 weeks to restore complete service to customers experiencing phone and internet outages. So, in Public Opinion this evening, we are asking, are you satisfied with the pace of service restoration by public utilities? So, as always, we invite you to send in your comments in the live chat on YouTube, and we will get to you in a little bit. So we're going to start with Facebook. So on Facebook, Natalie Winter says, not able to make a judgment as yet. Sansia Campbell says no. It's just no for Sansia. And Derek McCreath says, no, I'm not. On X, at Miss Cinto says, nope, rural communities and citizens always a suffer. Moving on to Instagram. Nathaniel Immortal says they are doing the best they can, but the priority parishes of St. Elizabeth, Manchester and Clarendon aren't being attended to with alacrity. Also, Digicel wasn't prepared for the hurricane as well as they should have. Tavia Jackson says some areas got light restored while others did not. She says it's a bittersweet opinion, just want them to work as fast as possible to complete the restoration. Call me Shoddy on Instagram says no, it's been 2 days since the hurricane passed and I've been without since the internet start blew hard on Wednesday. Lover of Crunchy Munchies still on Instagram says no. Fabless19 on Instagram says although a section of Tower Avenue is not restored and we are out of light from Tuesday before the hurricane. Denise says, yes, I'm satisfied and I'm praying for the crew who has been working so hard 24/7. Bana Petit says, listen, they're doing their best. 2.5 days without electricity was torture. I'm glad it's back. No spoilage, thank God. The unchangeable one on Instagram says, no, I'm totally not satisfied. Dennis Jr. Crooks says, I have electricity in Kingston and I'm grateful. However, there are several parishes where it seems persons are neglected. There needs to be some level of equity where parishes are concerned, especially rural areas. Herman Hyatt says, very satisfying, can't be more prouder. Shan JM says, no, I'm in Mandeville and all. No, I can't get back light and I don't see any damages anywhere. Evangelist Bennett says, I'll be honest, yes, given the circumstances and the conditions, it is much better compared to previous times. And now we're going to be moving over to YouTube, to our comments on YouTube. So going through the comments, Rich Richard said JPS working. Maker Studio says 2 weeks long for flow the man. So going through the comments, Lloyd Campbell says, can Jamaican people be grateful for once in their life? And on that point, Lloyd, we were having a discussion in our newsroom today where it was pointed out that it's easy for us who have light, us in the corporate area and other areas of the country who have light, it's easy for us to sit and say, why can't people be grateful? But the fact of the matter is, a lot of people have been sitting without light since Wednesday and it's Friday, and we know that JPS and other companies say they are doing their best, but the reality is that people are sitting without light and we don't know what it's like. They're sitting in darkness from Wednesday. They're probably worrying about the food in their refrigerator that's going to spoil. People who have appliances, like smart appliances, that need to be updated and charging. You don't know what's going to happen when you're without power for that long. So it's easy for us to wonder why people are complaining, but yeah. So Maxine Ellis says no power in Stony Hill. Baby Toy says the people are trying their best. Yes, we know it's hard, but I roll. Yvonne Morrison says they can do better. And well, that's it for public opinion this evening. Remember, you have the opinion of agreeing and disagreeing, as you are entitled to your own opinion. And thank you for sharing those opinions with us this evening. So that's public opinion. I'm Dana Davey. Stay tuned for the business report.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:33.
Don't let poor vision hold your children back. IQ Optical gives complimentary standard reflection-free lenses to children and teachers until May 31. Conditions apply.
The temperature by IQ Optical is
28 degrees Celsius in capital city Kingston and 30 out west in Montego Bay. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Dana Davey. The Bank of Jamaica, BOJ, says it's working closely with financial institutions to ensure the restoration of normal banking services in the shortest possible time. However, it says the absence of utilities across the island, the unavailability of staff due to the dislocation rising from the effects of Hurricane Beryl, and the inability of the service provider to access a number of ABM will adversely affect the speed at which normalcy is restored. The BOJ says the challenges are particularly acute in the rural areas, notably in the western parishes. The payment systems operated by BOJ, which facilitate the electronic settlement of transactions, are fully operational.
It says a number of banks have started to provide limited in-branch services and are endeavoring to provide ABM services as widely as possible at this time. Additionally, the central bank is advising that the online and customer support services for all banks are operational. And internationally, Wall Street is looking to corporate earnings to continue powering the 2024 stock market rally with interest rate cuts on the back burner. Analysts polled by FactSet expect second quarter earnings of S&P 500 companies to grow about 8.7% on average from the prior year. That would mark the fourth straight quarter of annual earnings growth for the benchmark index. Strong corporate earnings have helped the S&P 500 gain 16% and not repeated record high closes this year. That's despite sticky inflation during the first quarter, pushing interest rate expectations further out. While data in recent months has signaled that inflation is cooling again, the Federal Reserve penciled in just one interest rate cut for 2024 at its June policy meeting. Investors are now forecasting up to 3 cuts, but at the beginning of the year, they were projecting up to 6 or 7. And finally, in the currency markets, at the close of trading today, it cost 157 Jamaican dollars and 10 cents to buy $1 US. It cost 198 Jamaican dollars and 2 cents to buy 1 British pound and 113 Jamaican dollars and 87 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the business report. I'm Dana Davey. Good evening.
How much for your drink a rare rum? How much for your flask? How much for your drink a rare rum? How much for your flask? When you head to the bar, feel all our vibes and parts. Spend 15 bills, get a queue, feed the crew. Or spend 250 pound a drink for you or your boo. How much for your drink a rare rum? How much for your flask? How much for your drink a rare rum? How much for your flask?
Must be 18 years old to drink. Drink responsibly.
This summer, transform your summer body with Express Fitness Gym. For just $9,500 on AutoPay, you'll get access to all our locations 24/7. Enjoy free classes, fully air-conditioned facilities, showers, and changing rooms. Plus, our certified trainers are here to help you reach your goals. Visit Express Fitness Gym today. Your goal is our mission. Find a location near you or sign up now at pay.expressfitnessja.com.
You can have it all. Company events, birthday parties, or the wedding of your dreams. It's all possible at Grand Palladium Hotels and Resorts. We have magnificent event rooms and a dedicated team that will make your event the best experience that only Grand Palladium Hotels and Resorts can offer. Contact us at 876-619-0000 or call your favorite travel agency and ask about our promotion designed especially for you.
It's the weekend and the youth are taking over the airwaves. Yes, we are the new voices and faces of the Talk Up You radio show. The voice of the Jamaican youth right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
After a busy week of work and school, come and wine with Jamaica's #1 youth radio show.
We're bringing you entertainment, fun facts, and staying true to youth development and advocacy.
Catch the action each and every Saturday as we roll out buzzy segments. What say you?
Youth for chat.
Life skills.
Global Connect.
And Bust the Youth.
That's the Talk Up Youth radio show. Saturdays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
Talk Up Youth, Miss Effie.
Talk Up Youth. Don't miss it.
If it's in the public's interest, it's the nation's business during Nationwide at 5. The nation's business.
No mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all schoolers who are taking beats.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team, Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Come join us outside with Pepita. Every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. right here on Nationwide 90 FM. We bring you the views, the news, and we'll be cruising all around Jamaica.
Surprise them with a bang.
Where the hot spots, raindrops, sunshine, we'll be there. Don't miss it, don't miss it. Outside with Pepita.
Chewy flavor with delight. It really, really nice. May I for say it twice.
The time by Jamaica Mountain Peak Golden Turmeric Latte is
6:40.
Nation's Business is brought to you by BH Paints. Paint it, love it with BH Paints.
Good evening to you. Thank you so much for staying with us this wet Friday afternoon. Friday evening now, yeah? It's 20 minutes to 7. It's time for the Nation's Business. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
So even you inverted it now, so you got it wrong the first time.
Just a Friday vibes. Just a Friday vibes.
Shafan cap.
Yeah, no, I also need to say I've been getting a few questions from some listeners who are asking what happened to Sanjay Lewis, who was supposed to have been here yesterday. Sanjay will be with us next week, listeners. As you can imagine, the hurricane caused some amount of disruption. So don't fear. Somebody asked me, him lose the work already? No. Sanjay will be with us next week, yeah? All right, so let's turn our attention now to efforts to restore public utilities across the country following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. What do you have for us, Shimon?
Well, according to the JPS chairman and interim CEO Damien Obiglio, the damage to the power lines in the parish of St. Elizabeth, specifically caused by Hurricane Beryl, is 5 times worse than the rest of the island. Obiglio was speaking at a media conference following a meeting with Energy Minister Darrell Vaz on Friday morning. Officials of JPS and other utility companies met with Minister Vaz to give an update on the restoration of services following the passage of Hurricane Beryl. Obiglio says only 20% of power lines in the parish have so far been assessed.
St. Elizabeth, we haven't been able to inspect 100% of our lines. There are only 20%, and the damages that we have seen in 20% are 5 times that we have seen in any other part of the country. So St. Elizabeth is going to require a very dedicated and intensive actions to be restored back to service. We expect to try to finish the assessment between today and tomorrow morning in that most affected area of the country.
That's Damien Obiglio, the chairman and interim CEO of JPS. He says the Light and Power Company has so far restored service to 45% of its customers across the island. Mr. Obiglio says JPS will be working with other utility companies to meet the demands of affected customers. In the meantime, telecoms company Digicel says it has completed 117 repair jobs to its network. Of the repair work completed, 75 was in Kingston, 21 in Portmore, and 21 in Spanish Town. Digicel says 39 repair jobs are still in progress, and the company says its crew is en route to 22 remaining sites. We have with us now the Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, Darrell Vaz, and the Head of Corporate Affairs and Communications at Digicel, Elon Parkinson. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your listeners.
Elon?
Good evening, Minister. How are you doing?
Not bad, Elon. How is it?
Good.
All right, let me start with you, Minister. Have you heard anything from the telecoms, the utility companies this morning that gives you confidence that we're in a better position now?
We had a good meeting. Basically, the information that I required was given to me. Obviously, now it is the execution that I'm interested in, but I think that that in fairness, based on the passing of Beryl and the time for assessment of yesterday, less than 24 hours, you have to be fair in relation to what information you can expect based on the fact that the assessments could not be done in 24 hours. What I wanted to do is to make sure I get an understanding and a work plan in relation to how we're going to communicate to the nation and keep them updated in relation to the restoration. What I think one of the big issues is obviously the anxiousness and the anxiety of people who don't have light, and that's not something that you're accustomed to, and obviously not knowing what timelines to plan for and expect. So what I did is to bring the JPS utility company, along with the two telcos, along with the National Works Agency, and along with the National Water Commission, to make sure that there is a proper reporting mechanism, and most importantly, there's a proper work plan, because every one of them needs one another. And primary among everything is JPS to be able to power the pumps for the water, the cell sites, and other issues as it relates to the other telcos.
And what's the timeline that this work plan has laid out?
So basically, what I have read today was disrupted because further assessments should have been done from the air using the Jamaica Defense Force, and because of the weather, that was not able to happen. But basically, what I want to be able to do, and I'm insisting on, is that every day an update goes up, not only in relation to what work was done the previous day and achieved, parish by parish, but also a 2-day forecast so that persons can know how to plan their lives and their businesses. Not knowing and not having a timeline is the worst thing, because you can't plan. And therefore, what we need to do as a government is to communicate, and the only way we can communicate is to have a system and a mechanism which I have set up today, which is going to be led by Senator Apka Fitz-Henley through the information portfolio, along with the persons that have been assigned by the telcos, by NWC, by NWA, and most importantly by JPS. So let me give you a quick example that persons would not know, because those who don't have light are still anxious and frustrated. When we started, after Beryl passed, 65% of the customers of JPS, which is 448,000 customers, did not have light. As of this morning at 6 o'clock, on the 5th of July, that had been reduced to 377,000, which is 54% of the customer base. Therefore, 80,000 persons. But that 80,000 persons are all over Jamaica. So the bottom line is that those stats sound good, but we want to know parish by parish what has happened, what is the plan, and when can we expect to get normality back to those areas, parish by parish, community by community, business by business, household by household. That's what I need to do.
Minister Vaz, yesterday when we spoke to you, you suggested that you may have to take the additional step of seeking outside help. Based on your communications with JPS over the evening into today, are you satisfied that they'll be sufficient to be able to handle the workload?
So put it this way. That's one of the first questions I asked. JPS has assured me that they have 120 utility trucks, they have 400 utility pickups, and they have 1,200 employees and contractors to be able to carry out the work. They assured me that they had the necessary materials and the necessary resources. Now, I'm going to give them the chance to prove that. However, if I am not satisfied, in short order, I have already put in place the necessary calls to our international partners to be on standby because there's nothing more than the restoration of electricity. Nothing. No amount of road cleaning, no amount of, because that is the lifeline of the economy, and that's the lifeline of every citizen of the country, including the little one person that has a little store and has a little fridge with a little supplier community, to the big high-low, to the big sovereign, to the big mega mart and price mart.
Right, and tied up in that, Elon Parkinson, is the importance of telecommunications. Where are you now?
Let me just say before you get to telcos, I want to make it very clear that I am going to manage this crisis with fairness and equity. So I know that there are persons saying that privileged persons will get preference, etc., etc. I want to assure this country that I consider every Jamaican equal, and the bottom line is, depending on what the issue and the problem is in the particular area, we will go and we will fix what we can fix as quickly as we can fix, and the more complex issues, wherever they may be, whether in Stony or Beverly Hills, or whether in Mocha or Buff Bay, we are going to do it equitable and fair. So rest assured that there will be no politics and no preference because of color, race, or creed.
Hear you,
under
Minister.
my watch.
Hear you. Elon Parkinson, some Jamaicans are saying they're trying to reach their family members, they can't get to them. Where are you in terms of restoration?
So we are at 60% in terms of the network, but as to the reach of that network capacity, we're looking at just about 67%. At the time of coming on air, we were able to bring up some more sites in the Negril area, covering a small section of Hanover. As you know, Negril straddles Hanover and Westmoreland, so it would be Negril, Whitehall, West End, Mount Airy, and the surrounding communities. They're back online. We're working feverishly to bring back online some sites in St. Elizabeth, Santa Cruz, and Junction. They were up earlier today, and then we had some issues, so the sites went down a couple hours after. The teams are still out there working to bring the links back up and to get customers in St. Elizabeth, those particular areas, Santa Cruz and surrounding communities, Junction and surrounding communities, hopefully by Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon.
What of St. Mary?
St. Mary is coming up. We've had some improvements in St. Mary, especially along the coastal aspects of the parish. Certainly today we were met with some success in the hilly interior. We're still having some challenges towards the eastern end of St. Mary, especially where it connects with St. Andrew, and our teams are working through those challenges. I even reached out via email to a customer who was at work, but he lives in the Temple Hall area, to let him know that, you know, we're still on top of it. A lot of the challenges with the hilly areas concern access. You'll appreciate that most of our cell sites are hilltop sites. And we would have had to cut roads to get to those sites years ago when they were built. And so getting to them now is a challenge. In a lot of cases, we have our engineers walking with machetes up the hills to cut away the brush, just to get up to the sites and to see what's happening there.
Elon, to what extent or to what level is that repair works affected by the lack of JPS power, I should say?
Significantly, because a number of our sites operate on commercial power. Part of the challenge that I just mentioned a while ago, access. So even though those sites would be on generators, for example, they now need diesel fuel. The challenge is bringing the diesel fuel because it's blocked by lots of vegetation that would have been downed by the hurricane. So it's an access issue, but it's also a power issue. And in some cases, we want to access the site before the power is turned on again, just in case there are any issues there that could cause some adverse circumstance should the power hit the site without us performing our checks before. So it's a very delicate situation when it comes on to where power intersects with the technology. We have to be very careful. Remember now, we don't want to lose any of our employees. None of the utilities want to really, I can speak for them. And so we exercise due care when it comes on to accessing these sites and carrying out the fixes that are necessary to keep Jamaica connected once again.
Minister,
Ricardo,
yes,
yeah.
Minister.
I want to touch on one other matter which is of very importance.
Just before you get to it, let me just put this one to you, because I saw online where opposition Senator Peter Bunting was very critical of the response time of the JPS, saying that he wasn't seeing trucks in the air, for example, in South Manchester.
I'm actually happy you said it, because you're reading my mind.
Right, so I wanted you to react to that as minister, because he's saying that he's impatient of what's happening.
And the truth of the matter is that that's coming from somebody who is obviously very bright business-wise, but very stupid politically. The bottom line is you need to give the utility company at least 24 hours to do their assessment. It makes no sense sending out trucks and vehicles if you don't know what the issues are. And they have the ability to assess from internally through their technology to know exactly what they need to send out material-wise, etc. So that's just raw politics of the old. Let me explain to you my problem.
But how do you square that against the fact that the MP for South East St. Catherine, Robert Miller, has also been critical? He says that JPS is endangering livelihoods.
And I'm saying, and I'm not speaking for JPS. I'm speaking as a rational person, and I can understand that emotions are high and people want to satisfy their constituents. I am saying to you that I think it's more than reasonable to give them 24 hours at least. I am expecting that now that they have given me an assessment and they have put it in writing to me, that you will see the 1,200 trucks and the 400 vehicles going out, weather permitting, by latest tomorrow morning. Now, if I don't see that happen, then I know what I am up against. But I'm going to give them the opportunity to do their assessment, aerial and otherwise, to come up with a plan. Because the fact of the matter is that they are going to have to go on the road now and deal with the replanting of poles, etc. I am saying to you, the problem that I have, and a lot of Jamaicans have, is that the areas that have been hit the mildest or the modestly are having severe power outages. And the question is, if it is that it's Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, and a part of Manchester that got the brunt of the hit, yes? Why are we so badly affected across the rest of the parishes?
And the answer to that given to you by JPS was what?
They haven't given me a proper answer as yet, because obviously I'm giving them the time. But I have put that on the table because as we speak, there are areas that were mildly affected that are still out of electricity because of the disruption of the network by poles, by trees, by leaves, whatever it is. Yes? And that is an issue that I will need to deal with as minister.
What does this say about the resilience, though, of the JPS grid,
so
broadly speaking?
Again, I don't want to go too far. I want to give them the opportunity. I have concerns, and it's not today that I have the concerns, but now that we have had this event, my concerns have now become reality. And I'm saying to you that it has not passed me a bit. And those persons that are asking the same question can rest assured that I am very, very aware of it, and I too believe that the amount of power outages that we have as a result of the storm and the areas that were not affected is unacceptable.
And Minister, to further of that question, to what extent do you have the ability to essentially force some adjustments to improve the resilience of the electricity grid on your part?
Well, we have just reviewed the Joint Select Committee, which I chaired, has just renewed the Electricity Act, which is now before Parliament, which has a number of new new conditionalities. And of course, the license for the JPS is up for renewal 2027, and negotiations will start in due course. All I'm saying is that for the event that we had and the areas that were badly affected and the areas that were not as badly affected in relation to where we are today is a concern for the government.
Shanna K. Alexander, if I could, Siobhan, is asking a question to the minister that I've seen raised before, Minister. This question of underground wiring. Where do you stand on that?
Well, put it this way: if you notice, in terms of new developments that are taking place across Jamaica and across the world, that is the way to go. The problem is the expense. It's a very expensive proposition. But the bottom line is we have huge infrastructure already. So that is something that wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen today or overnight, but it's something for the future, especially with climate change and where we are going in relation to that. So that has to be a consideration. But don't forget for a minute the cost in relation to that.
Understood, Minister. But didn't the JPS essentially go to court and fought tooth and nail to avoid this issue of underground wiring?
And I suspect I know why they did it. And as I said before, the review of the Electricity Act is now in front of Parliament, and it will have from a Joint Select Committee, and those discussions will take place. All I want to say is that to assure the country that I am fully aware of the frustrations and the anxiety, and that I am going to hold JPS to account to make sure that the restoration is done in a timely manner. And if I am not satisfied, you can rest assured that I will seek outside assistance.
And just to that then, Minister, what would you consider a acceptable timeline for full coverage to return to the island? And what would be the threshold where you feel that you must trigger overseas help?
In the worst case scenario of the parishes that are worst affected, yes, I would say probably maybe 4 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks in relation to the really bad areas. Obviously, with other areas within those parishes receiving electricity. And just from where I stand now, I can't see why 2 weeks to get the other areas all back up and running would be unreasonable.
And Elon, I understand that much of this is also related to the work of JPS, but when do you expect Digicel's network to at least reach, let's say, 80 to 90% coverage again?
Right. So it's power, it's also transmission. Remember, some of our network, mobile network especially, is run based on fiber optic cables going to those sites, right? Some of those cables are run via sea, and they make landfall at particular points across the country. Those cables are being fixed as we speak. There are several what we call points of presence that are offline, and the teams are working hard to reattach those cables. We're talking about fiber optic cables with like 500, sometimes 1,000 strands, and each strand has to be individually reconnected. It's painstaking, right? But the teams are equal to the task, and they're working on it. So when we sort out...
And you have alternate solutions.
Yes, we have redundancies as well. But, you know, of course, again, with the downed poles on land, that affects the redundancy capabilities as well.
Just say 1 week, Elon. Just say 1 week and call it a day. All right?
Your final word to Jamaicans this evening, Minister.
Just about that.
My final words are that I am fully aware, cognizant, and in my usual style, I'm going to micromanage this process to make sure that we get restoration in the areas that are least affected in the shortest possible time, and also to concentrate and do whatever we need to do to get those areas that have been most affected right behind. And the fact is that I will be micromanaging it on a daily basis, and I'm committing. I'm not going to depend on the individual government agencies or private entities like the telcos to send out releases. That is going to have to be given, and I will manage that to make sure that the communication goes out on a daily basis and that people can call in to get information in relation to their areas so that they can plan their life over the next few weeks. Reminding everybody that we are very lucky. We dodged a bullet thanks to the Blue Mountains. And I'm saying to you that it could have been much worse. So for every minute of frustration that you go through, remember to give God thanks, because we could be in a much worse situation today in Jamaica that we would take years to recover from.
And your word to your customers tonight, Elon?
And all that, as my usual stance, give me some time and some patience.
All right. Word to our customers tonight. We cannot thank them enough for their patience and understanding. We're constantly communicating as best as we possibly can with them. Each one tell one. So when we send out the updates, please, in any which way you can, share it with your friends and relatives in those areas that are badly affected. Let them know that we are on the job 24/7, working to connect them as quickly as we possibly can. I want to thank the minister as well for his unifying spirit as we go through this together.
And Ricardo, let me just say that it is not beyond me that persons that don't have light and water, and for the time that they don't have, must not be charged. I will say no more on that.
All right. Okay? We're looking forward to you following up on that.
Absolutely, 100%. Right? There has to be some mechanism so that those persons who are affected get some kind of concession in relation to bills that would use
lots of service.
Them.
Yeah, absolutely, Minister. And we're taking that into account.
You were thinking it? I thought it from last night when I woke up.
No, I said we're taking it. We're taking it into account.
I am here to protect my Jamaican citizens, all of them, regardless of color, creed, or political affiliation.
Daryl Vaz is the Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications and Transport, and Elon Parkinson
all right, so I have a job.
Is Head of Corporate Affairs. And you know, that point shouldn't be lost, that so much hangs on what has happened post, because leading up, I think it's fair to say the government managed that process very well. The communication was on point, the activations happened appropriately, and I suspect many Jamaicans are looking on to say what happens now that it's passed and in the recovery phase. So I understand the urgency.
Let us put the politics aside and deal with the rebuilding, and then we can get back to politics, okay?
Daryl Vaz, Elon Parkinson, thank you so much for your time.
And it should be noted, we also tried to get a hold of Flo and JPS to be part of this discussion, but we were not successful.
Flo seems content to simply just issue releases rather than more direct engagements. I think Digicel has been a little bit more accessible. Yes. Yeah. Fair to say?
I think that's fair to say.
All right. After the break, your call, 630-937-124, 618-8255.
Nation's Business was brought to you by BH Paints. Paint it, love it with BH Paints.
The mission of the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs includes revising Jamaica's legal and constitutional infrastructure and accelerating the pace of reform. The time by the MLCA is
7:07.
Don't compromise on water storage. Choose Rhino water tanks, Jamaica's top pick for over 25 years. Built strong. Purchase a water harvester for an additional water supply. Rhino water tank, Jamaica's choice.
Want to pursue your dreams of higher education without financial stress? At the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean, we believe in making education accessible for all. We're excited to share that the Students' Loan Bureau no longer requires guarantors for access to SLB loans at UCC. That's right, no more hassle finding a guarantor. And that's not all. Payments can be deferred until after graduation. To learn more, visit the UCC website at www.ucc.edu.jm. UCC, fostering leadership and innovation.
Pull up another party, yeah. I know watch nobody. Come join us outside with Pepita. Every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
Boy, Yafi.
We bring you the views, the news, and we'll be cruising all around Jamaica.
Hey, surprise them with a bang.
Where the hot spots, raindrops, sunshine, we'll be there. Don't diss it, don't miss it. Outside with Pepita.
It's 9 minutes after 7. We're taking your calls. I'm Ricardo Brooks. He's Siobhan Campbell. 630-937-124-618-8255. Keisha, good evening.
Hey, Ricardo. Hey, how you doing?
You sound much happier. You've heard from them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy to hear that, Keisha. That's good. And they're all right?
Yeah, man. They're fine. Just, little damage what I mean life is the greatest.
Absolutely.
So anything else can fix afterwards.
Absolutely. I'm glad to hear that, Keisha. Really happy to hear
Hi,
that.
Siobhan.
Hey, Keisha, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
Quite well.
On a big friend. On a big friend. Oh,
She's being polite.
That sounds warm and cuddly. On a big friend.
Well, anyway,
Yes.
Principal Staff Minister was, I like how you're on top of things and all of that. But let me tell you one of my biggest concerns,
Yes,
Siobhan and Ricardo, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the areas that, as the Minister Wall said, that are not as badly affected as some of the rural areas.
Yes.
What about those persons who are diabetic patients who they literally have to depend on their refrigerator to put in their insulin?
Yes. Yes.
Right? And
yes.
also you have some kids or even an adult who might be taking antibiotic, which that antibiotic has to stay on a refrigerator.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm pretty much concerned. And these kids are moving you still no light. And what they say, road running off a minute to understand it came for 1 minute and cut off. So JP is not going to look into that because might be somebody place who has to get light, it come and gone again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that was the case, for example, in Harborview. Because I think a notice came out that it was back and then, it was in darkness. But you're absolutely right about how the minister is going about it. I think it's the right way. Being on top of it, providing the updates in a timely manner, because people are frustrated. And as you raised, there are real concerns, especially in communities that when you look on the face of it, they're not as badly affected. You don't see the downed lines, you don't see the downed poles, you don't see a lot of damage, and yet they don't have power. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
And I must say, like, my friend, Charmaine in Gregor Park, I mean, to understand that they don't have any electricity. I don't know if it's back yet. I'm trying to get to her, not getting her, but I know that she's a very ardent listener nationwide. So, my sister Charmaine, bless up yourself, mommy, and hope you're doing fine. Good night, Jamaica.
All right, Keisha.
Good night, Keisha.
Big up yourself, Charmaine. We hope you're doing all right. And the more I see, Siobhan, the images and just hear from people who are in St. Elizabeth, my heart absolutely goes out to them. One of my friends down there said to me, we have no light, no water, no connection. It's miserable. I've never seen it like this. We need help. My heart absolutely goes out to them. Who's next?
Raymond.
Raymond, good evening.
Good afternoon, Ricardo.
How are you?
Good, I live in Hamilton Gardens in Gregor Park.
Mm-hmm.
And we have no light from Wednesday night, but all around us have light. The flat scheme, we live in high houses, but they have a flat scheme. The flat scheme have light. There's light in Christian Gardens. There's light in Watson Grove. But we are in the middle and we have no light.
Oh, Lord. Have you tried reaching out to JPS to hear?
We can't get them.
Oh, dear.
And we have no falling poles in the scheme.
Say the name of the community again. Hamilton Gardens?
Hamilton Gardens, yes.
Dana, could you bring that to Miss Callum's attention? Hamilton Gardens.
And we have no light. And the lights around us. Lights in Watson Grove. Lights in Gregor Park, a section of Gregor Park. Lights out at the Aki Village.
Okay.
Lights on Mandela Highway. All those places around us.
All right, we're going to try to bring it to Miss Callum's attention.
They have light and don't have any light.
We're going to try to bring it to their attention for you to see if we can find out what's causing it. You said light isn't in the communities around you, but just you don't have any.
Us, and we are in the middle of a housing scheme, Hampton Garden housing scheme.
And as far as you can see, there are no down poles or anything.
We have the Rwanda thing, they don't read our meters. They read the meters from the office.
Okay, those are the
and we don't have any line.
ones.
We have twisted cable. We don't use power lines more than so.
Okay.
So we have no broken trees or nothing in the scheme. So maybe we have a trip breaker or something, maybe a fuse drop out or something.
All right, we're going to try to bring
from Wednesday night.
We're going to bring it to their attention for you, see if we can get an update, all right?
Thank you, Ricardo. Bless you.
All right, blessings, my brother. Carl, good evening.
Evening, Ricardo. Evening. Sorry.
Evening, Carl.
Did you listen to the interview that you did with Mr. Clark properly this evening?
If I listen to it properly?
If you listen carefully this evening.
Well, we conducted it, so I hope we were listening carefully.
Well, Mr. Clark said we have up to $45 billion can jar down. But we don't have to, although we have it for jar down, we don't have to take it.
Yes. Which to me sounds very responsible, yes.
And when me hear him use that word this evening, my brain reflect to so. Can you imagine if I did them people there around and I election them here, Ricardo?
I knew that's where you were going.
Hey, Ricardo?
Okay, Carl.
Carl, how are things where you are? How did you fare after burial?
Very good, but can you imagine if them the people there around, what I would have run? Maybe that one would have water run for
I will say this, and I say this without any apology. The foresight involved and pre-planning and forward planning involved in this disaster mitigation strategy is absolutely brilliant. There's no doubt about that. I don't think anybody who says otherwise is uncharitable and unkind. It was sound fiscal planning, sound financial planning, and it really it goes back to what you used to hear when you were younger. You put a little aside for a rainy day.
And somebody with some brain leading.
I can't think of anybody who could fault the strategy. I think it's brilliant.
So when we listen this evening, it make me consider say we need 2 more terms of Nigel Clark.
As finance minister.
Full term to finish straighten up Jamaica.
Okay. All right. Well, what you have to do in that case then is convince the people of Jamaica that this administration should be re-elected.
My work cut out for me.
Okay. Well, hit the road.
Have a nice week.
Have a good night.
All right, Carl. Bobby.
Yes, good evening, Ricardo.
Good evening.
Good evening, Siobhan.
Evening, Bobby.
Ricardo, I really do agree with you a short while ago. The team that do this planning for the disaster mitigation program, they have done an excellent job. And
No doubt.
Yes, and I should commend the Prime Minister and the team, man. They have done well. But Ricardo, when I sat this evening and I listened to Minister Darrell Vaz, my heart leaped. I've never heard an energy minister in times like this disaster come out and stand up for the people of Jamaica. Prime Minister Andronis, you have an excellent energy minister, and I think Prime Minister Darrell Vaz should be elevated further. Minister Vaz,
elevated further? He almost has a super ministry now,
Well, true. But Minister Vaz, you are doing an excellent job. And when I hear you this evening, Minister Vaz, I know anybody who have anything otherwise to say, they are unkind. You are the only energy minister in times like these. Go out there on the ground for the people of Jamaica. Sir, you are doing an excellent job, and I must commend you over and over for something like this. And finally, Ricardo, I also want to, Ricardo and Siobhan, sorry. Yes, I also want to commend my hard-working councillor over here in the Ensom City Division, Mr. Jacob Kukan. During this time, he come and he pick me up. And we leave families and we go out there in this time, visit all the shelters and so on for the sake of the people and ensure that everybody is okay. I must commend them for that. And I must tell Minister Grange that, look here, you have 3 councillors in your division. I don't know about the other 2, but I can speak about my one, Mr. Jacob Kukan. To me, he is the very best.
All right.
Okay then, thank you very much.
All right.
Good.
Del, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
How are you?
Good evening, Del.
How are you?
All right. How you doing?
Not too bad. I'm here without light.
Oh Lord, where are you?
South Manchester.
Oh dear. You might have a little
South
bit.
Manchester.
You might have a little bit of a wait, though.
And from Ellen Street,
Mm-hmm.
surprise, Ellen Street come down, All England come down. That's that direction I am. Okay. And Prattville, Mount Halifax. I don't hear anybody talking about South Manchester. They like to get any hit or anything. They're just talking about St. Elizabeth and other parishes. I don't hear anybody talk about Manchester. We are in darkness from Wednesday, from this time until now.
We're losing you, Del. Say that again.
Wednesday, we are in darkness in our fridge and so on. And we don't hear anybody talking about our side of the neck of the woods. Just St. Elizabeth alone and other parishes.
Yeah. My understanding was that along that stretch, Alligator Pond, straight out, that you might have a little bit of a wait.
A little bit of a wait?
And I'm putting that as kindly as I can. It may be a little while before you are reconnected.
Yes, I believe so, sir. But they don't mention anything about, like, crops and so on. Like you're losing your crops and so on. No, anything.
Yeah.
So, I'm listening to you from Tuesday, Mr. Tuesday. He must worry he have our back. And I'm listening all the time, right so, for the whole time. But I can't get the station, I'm confused. I have to turn off the radio. If I'm not listening to Mr. Hughes or you guys, I turn off the radio. Just turn it on.
So you're a farmer, Del?
Pardon me?
You're a farmer?
Yes, sir. Bananas, yam, all sorts of stuff. All the yam field just almost gone.
Oh, dear.
Coconut trees, banana, everything, pear tree, breadfruit, everything is on the ground. And I don't hear anybody mention about coconut. All the times I'm doing talking, yes, talking. All he talks about is
All right. Okay.
but mention Manchester.
You're going out again. You're going out again.
It is in the south, sir. Manchester is in the south region too.
Yes. All right. What's the community again? Tell me the name of the community again.
The community is Mount Halifax.
No, I'm not hearing you, Del. Go again.
Perrins, Mount Halifax, Manningsfield, Prattville, Windsor Forest, Erin Street. From here, they come straight down.
Okay. All right. We're going to see if we can follow up for that. All right?
Yes, sir. And take care of yourself.
You too, Del.
And tell Mr. Hughes hi.
Tell him?
Mr. Hughes hi.
All right. Okay, Del. Yes, sir. Take care of yourself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man. Who's next? 630-937-124, 618-8255. I have to say I have a little soft spot, when I hear that people are having a hard time of it. Because on the one hand, again, you understand that there is some amount of patience that has to be exercised based on the level of damage. You get
but
that.
Then you ask yourself, would you be as patient in the same situation?
Yeah, you can understand people's frustration. And like Del there is just saying she's not hearing of an update for her specific area. And obviously, again, you have to prioritize perhaps, where the damage is
the hardest hit. But even then, people don't want to be left in the dark about their own situation. And what the minister said is right. You need to have the communication. You must provide the information so people at least have an understanding that they've not been forgotten.
Yeah, important in a crisis, communication. William?
Good evening, Ricardo. Good evening, Siobhan.
Evening, William.
Yes, a few quick things here. First, with the garbage collector, solid waste management. In Greater Portmore, especially the top part of Greater Portmore going to 4 East Side, it's over 3 weeks now. Garbage will come by the back to 2 East Side, but none up the top. And Tuesday, I call them to find out why we cannot get our garbage moved. Their response, that the truck them busy, them have to go where them have to collect, we are flooding. So I don't know if they use domestic garbage now for use those trucks or to go clean gully or whatsoever. Because I kind of surprised what the lady tell me. So I ask her, So, Mr. What about the tipper truck and other truck we should use and make that some new truck and so come? As you can say, the information from the supervisor. And up till now, all the rubbish from them come country, all of them full on the ground, all over the place.
Okay. What's the community?
3 East and 4 East.
Okay.
The top part of 3 East going up to 4 East. They come the bottom of 3 East to 2 East. Several times you hear them down there. But up at the top, no truck.
Yeah, and I think I've heard you raise this with us before.
Repeat?
I'm saying I think I've heard you raise this issue with us before. But we're going to ask you, of course, to be a little bit more patient because, as you can imagine, there is a situation unfolding where public utilities are concerned. I mean, and I understand what you're saying about the garbage trucks, and perhaps they're using them to assist them in moving some of the. No, and I appreciate that. I do, William.
And when later tell me now that the unit was supposed to collect the domestic waste, they are going to use it now to clean flood area and them something. Let me not believe those rubbish, sir.
No, I don't. Well, I don't think it's rubbish exactly because I can see where you might have need for the garbage truck to move. For example, help you to move like down trees or other kinds of debris. I can see how that might be
and
necessary.
Tell that they get 50 truck. What happened to them?
Yeah, William, you have to remember it's based on the extent of the situation. Are you hearing me?
Yeah.
You have to remember it's based on the extent of the situation that they're dealing with. So you're going to have to exercise a little bit of patience. I understand it's been 3 weeks, and I get that, and I appreciate the frustration. But just also remember that other people are facing a much more severe situation than you are right now.
You can't give them patience. I'm not give them no patience with foolishness.
Okay.
I am in this country too long to say this country is moving from to where it end up now. Not supposed to, sir.
Okay,
not
William.
Supposed to.
All right.
And with the minister, I heard him speak about that the chairman of the public service tell him that they have 120 truck to really deal with this matter. That is the next thing. I have a lot of family living in Portland, especially in the Manchester area. They never get any heavy breeze there. And mostly the storm water flow over in the road. And
William.
Yes, sir.
I'm asking you, I'm now pleading with you to appreciate that because in that locale they might not have been affected, it does not mean that in other places the situation isn't severe and serious. And I hope you can understand and appreciate that the authorities will want to go to the areas that are hardest hit to try to bring some amount of relief. And when you and I understand that your garbage collection is important, but when you put it on the scale of priorities right now, I'm just suggesting to you that it may not at this point be at the very top.
No matter what the JPS know.
Okay.
What I'm saying, from the Wednesday morning, they lose their power up there. And up till now, not one single JPS truck they see pass in the area.
Okay, but did you also hear about the assessments being done, for example, from the aerial assessments?
Repeat?
Did you hear about the aerial assessment? So even if you don't see a physical truck, I think the explanation was you won't see the truck until they have first assessed the situation.
Mr. Ricardo?
Yes.
I heard you. I heard them.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing these people, I've experienced with them,
okay.
Hard for me to swallow the tablet.
Yeah, you see, and I think that's part of the problem. We're operating in a low-trust environment, and I get that. I appreciate that, and I appreciate that in years gone by, the response hasn't been good. I appreciate that. I can take that point. But I'm begging you, just give the authorities some patience. Because remember, it's not just government, it's actual people who have to do these jobs.
I understand that fully.
Yes.
But at least you should see these people trying to put things together to make back whatever is supposed to be done. But you are not seeing nobody. Even Portmore here.
No, but we just explained to you the situation about seeing people, William. Because I just explained to you the specific situation about seeing people because it was raised. And the JPS, their response, and you may doubt them or disbelieve them, but their response is you may not see the trucks at this point because what is being done first is the assessment. So it might not be that you need a truck. You may not need a truck at all.
In some area, they need truck because some area wire and some breakdown.
Okay.
What they deal with, what they're looking at, they cannot see in the office and connect up wire.
Right.
the truck have to go out there to do these things.
Okay.
And if the truck them not go out there, what happen? Every day they come and tell you the same excuse.
Okay. All right, William.
We are backwards, and they need more maintenance. That is my view. They need more maintenance. Take the shorter maintenance, and that is my view.
All right, my brother. I appreciate the call. Have a good one, William. 630-9371-4 618-8255. I have a question here on YouTube. Let me just answer it before we go to Faithful. Fired Up is asking me if I'm an apologist for the government. No, I'm an apologist for people who are doing the actual work. Yeah? People who, like you, have families. And I want to believe that these people who are employed to JPS, to Digicel, to Flow, to the NWC, to the JDF, to the JCF, are acting in good faith and are doing the best that they can do. And I'm saying to you, when you have concerns, and I get it, we've been saying it here, when something is wrong in your neck of the woods, that is the center of your universe.
Yes, it's hard to
extrapolate
the
yes,
problem.
Man, and I get that. But I'm just trying to say, you have to sometimes have a broader perspective for what's happening. Yeah? And I'm saying, in this instance, there are people who are having a much harder time of it than saying, your garbage hasn't been collected in 3 weeks. Important though that is. Yeah? That's all I'm saying. Faithful.
Good afternoon, Ricardo. Shavan, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, it's evening actually.
Good evening. For me, forgive me. Yeah, I want to send out some strength to the civil servant who have to work tirelessly during this time. Police, soldier, doctor, nurse, and JPS personnel and water commission and those of sexual and God. I figure more that they have to go undergo a whole lot more stress. And I think sometimes because of the need is great, especially in this time. I cannot imagine how so many persons are without electricity for such a long time. I know that will be very tedious. But in the same breath, I also think that those civil servants, they are trying their best. And we need to give them some strength sometimes instead of at all time just criticize and negative. I know there's a whole lot of negative, but I don't think it's all negative at times. So we have to give some form of consideration for that also.
Yeah. And let me just say, you can give consideration without having low standards or setting the bar low. Yeah, I don't want people to confuse the two things. We're not saying accountability isn't important. We're not saying that at all. But I think the way, some of how I see the conversation developing, it's almost that we forget that these are human beings who have to go. You heard Elon say, for example, that their engineers have to carry machetes to go and try to chop a path back to this. You know, I think we can be a little bit more understanding sometimes.
Sometimes what is our problem, It's because we are in our local and we operate in our spaces. We don't know what takes place in other place now. And because of that, we fear to give thanks and be more gratitude. Because in some other jurisdictions, it is far worse than what we are complaining about, So we don't know what it to be appreciative. And it's never good to get up and complain every time. Finally, you know, I often wonder, like Mr. Tufton said, that some person are in the hospital who are not sick, but they occupy bed space and all of these things.
Social cases, they're called.
Those are cases. So I wonder, why is it so difficult for, like, the government or Mr. Tufton or who are in charge to remove them from the hospital so that those persons who are sick can get the bed? Because
that's a tricky issue, do you know, my brother? Because in many cases, these people have been abandoned. So when you remove them, where are you going to put them?
To home.
Okay. I did remember a conversation about them going to the infirmaries, for example.
Right, that was.
Yes.
Yes. So they couldn't go to place like those.
I mean, I suppose it would depend again on the assessment of their needs, for example. Because, I think a lot goes into the assessment, though. But I do remember a conversation. I appreciate that you're just asking. But my best recollection is that there was a conversation about it between, I think it was the local government ministry and the health ministry. And then there was a conversation about the law. How do you change the law to make some accommodation? So I think they are discussing how best to deal with it.
Because I heard Mr. Tufton was saying the other day, I think you mentioned, said that he gonna sue the children of the parents who left them there. But then again, it's just talk and nothing more.
Yes, that was also a conversation I heard, yes.
Right, and it's very heartbreaking to hear that person went hospital for bed and there's no bed and they sleep on bench and in chairs and all of these things. And some person are there who can be discharged and not living. I did not we can do about it.
Yeah, I hear you, my brother.
That seems very unjust to me.
I hear you. All right, thanks, Faithful. Seeley says, Ricardo, garbage should be collected as the implications are far-reaching and you shouldn't make excuses for the NSWMA. Garbage is collected mostly by compactor units, not dump trucks. Okay, Seeley. If you missed the nuance there, okay. I can only say okay. All right, who's next? Nicholas, good evening.
Hi, good evening, guys. How are you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
Give thanks. First, move over contribute a disclaimer. I'm an employee of the Jamaica Public Service Company, but I'm not speaking to you guys now in the capacity of an employee or as a representative of the company. I just want to send some shout-outs because I don't think people understand what it is that we do. As you rightly said, and some of you, one of the previous callers said about, we have families, but yet still we are still required to show up during a storm or during any major, what you want to call it, catastrophe or national disaster. So imagine we have to leave our families, kiss our wives, the females have to kiss their husbands and say goodbye to their kids and go out into the field, whether it be at a power station or a substation or at a local operation center to prepare for restoration. It's really a task, right? And I don't think the nation understand. And even you can say even, I don't think the country as a whole understand what it is that we do and the sacrifices that we make, right? With that said, I would like to send some shout-outs. Big up to the Bogue Power Station, Operation Generations. I mean, I know that those guys down there have been going through a lot in trying to ensure that the restoration, their part of the restoration, is doing what it is that it's supposed to be doing. The guys from Hunts Bay Power Station, Rockford Power Station, the private power guys, WKPP, Dr. Bird, etc., New Fortress Energy, big them up because, I mean, these are the guys that are actually making the power. And to be on a power station during a storm, some people might say, oh, well, we're safe and whatever. Sometimes there are circumstances may present itself that can cause a situation. And, the sacrifice that these guys make to be there during a storm, I don't think the country understands. And finally, I mean, the storm came and went Wednesday. I mean, I've seen scenarios where previous storms, you can count Dennis Emily in 1 year, back to back, with Ivan the previous year. I think we did get a little brush off for Sunday. And I think that our company has improved drastically in terms of our restoration efforts. And if you look at a lot of the issues that we have, and I'll close with these guys, a lot of the issues that we have regarding our transmission lines are basically debushing issues. A man have a mango tree, he decides him not cut it because he want mango, and guess what go on? The tree them drop down upon the line. Now you want a man now to go out in the rain. So and you're going, and this is the thing about now, the posture of our leaders at times in terms of when reaching out to the electorate, the potential electorate. I mean, I could not appreciate that. Right? Have the conversation with management first. Hear what our challenges are before you come out and you do the grandstanding and the posturing.
Who do you think was grandstanding, though?
No, man. I mean, there are in the 7 o'clock news this morning. I think it was. I couldn't appreciate the tone of the minister. I mean, you're summoning, you're summoning I'm summoning these guys and this and that and whatever. This one will have a restoration process. Digicel, Flow, JPS, National Water Commission.
But my brother,
have a restoration process.
My brother, while I appreciate that the job you do is difficult and we are grateful for the service that you provide, you also have to understand that the minister has another job. And often,
I would totally understand.
Right, and oftentimes, the ire and the anger is directed at him or at the government. So, I mean, when he speaks in a strong tone, remember there are thousands of people pressuring him for a response. They look to the government and they say, what are you doing about this?
Yeah, man, and right, and as a minister, as you mentioned, it's more of a super ministry, and we understand. Hey, you're under a whole heap of pressure,
right.
And we get it.
Yes.
Believe you me, and that's why some of us are the guys on the ground that would have been the foot soldiers for entities that fall under his ministry.
Yes.
Try our best to make sure that we do what we can, right? But as we say, I mean, you feel the pressure, yes, but it's like you try to deflect and pass on the pressure on us. They know we as JPS employees, Water Commission employees, Flow employees, digital employees, are going to start to feel the brunt now at the public because, hey, guess what going on? Oh, the minister said this, and yes, and so they will feed off of that energy, you understand?
Yeah.
So that's at the point I'm trying to get off. So we understand, say, the minister have him issues, and the people them call him phone because he's one of the only ministers that I know that put him public number out there for if have a problem call him.
Yes,
so we get it. But sometimes you have to kind of just show their appreciation. If you did talk to the boss them and the boss them don't give you something concrete, and then you have all right to come out and say, hey, you know X, Y, and Z and whatever, but that tone and that posture.
But I think the minister did properly explain that he had requested some information from JPS and that information was not forthcoming up to this evening.
And when was that information requested, my boss?
From as early as Wednesday when the storm hit.
Okay, so how we can give you, how the company or any company, whether it be Water Commission, JPS or whatever, we can give the restoration process have to take into consideration the first order of business assessment.
But the minister had said that he had given them, yes, they told them, they gave them the 24 hours to do the assessment, but you expected to at least have some information forthcoming as to a way forward.
I also want us to focus now on going forward because I think there's been some meeting of the minds now. And as the minister says, he's giving them.
And I've been getting some rest from my long shift, so I'm not affair with what came out of that meeting.
Right, so he came on this afternoon and he explained that there's been some meeting of the minds. He's giving the time for the proper assessment to be done. He's posed some questions to the management and he's awaiting the responses.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, very good, guys. Okay, thank you. Other callers are on the line, so thank you very much.
And thank you for your service, my brother.
Yeah, man, no problem.
All right.
And big up to my JPS family and NWC, Cable and Wireless and Digital. All right, big up on yourself.
All right, cool. 630-937124, 618-82255. Zip, good evening.
Good evening, Ricardo, Siobhan. To some extent, the last caller, big up JPS too for their continued work, has answered some of the question, especially with the view of what Minister Vaz had to report back. So what I gather, we're in Port Maria, Ricardo, and the reason we're calling is, obviously, it's like Armageddon. No, there's no news. Other radio stations are playing music instead of this serious issue. Can you tell us what you know about Port Maria? Any time scales at all that you know?
In terms of power restoration?
Yeah, Flow. I gather Flow hasn't given any updates. I gather JPS are working on it. Is that the service we've got?
That's the best we have for you, my brother. We just spoke to Digicel, who said that they've made some progress in the coastal towns of the parish of St. Mary Broadley, and that they're trying to do some interior work now. We haven't had any specific update from Flow regarding St. Mary.
Yeah, that's fabulous, and it's great. I mean, without the radio, I'm not even sure how we get this information, because it just feels like Armageddon now, doesn't it? No utilities, no lights, no power. It really feels odd.
So how are you charging your devices?
Well, we've got a Delco in it.
Okay.
A little Delco, so that's what's happened. So I suppose that's part of the preparation thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I get you. But we can try to check for you. You said Port Maria?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you've answered it. I think the answer is a question mark, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of don't know.
Yeah. But we'll try to get a more specific answer. We're just saying we don't know because you haven't been provided. Maybe they are making some progress. We can check specifically for you.
Yeah, really appreciate it, and thanks for the information.
No problem, Zip.
Okay, bye now.
Full disclosure is asking if the gentleman just now was authorized to speak on behalf of the companies. No, he said he was not speaking on behalf of the companies, even though he was employed
as
to one
an
of them.
employer of the company, essentially.
Ray Supreme was asking us to also check on St. Mary, so we can do that, Ray. He's complaining about the service provided by Flow. 630-937-124, 618-8255. Those are the numbers to call. Taking your calls. What's happening in your neck of the woods? I see Janet Grant saying, I don't think JPS was unprepared. The day after burial, they should have been out in droves and they were MIA. Okay, well, yeah. We were having a discussion about it being perhaps a problem of manpower in terms of just how many laborers they have to,
Well, according to the minister, that does not seem to be the issue at all. Yeah. I suppose he's just right. They were just simply doing an assessment, and they did not expect to be out in numbers until that assessment is complete.
Yeah. I'll tell you this much, Siobhan. I had an experience, as you know, on Wednesday, which gave me a newfound appreciation of the work that these people do. And maybe that's why I'm not as strident in my condemnation. Let's give them some grace. The police, the JDF, give them some grace.
I see Brick Road and Sharma saying employee. Did I say employer? Is that what I said?
Oh, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. If I said employer, you're right. Employee. I can't recall if I specifically said employee or employer, but he's speaking as an employee of JPS in his own cognizance.
Correct. Rasta Rock Jamaican is asking, how about Alligator Pond? Our best information, it was that it's hard hit. We don't have any specific information and timelines.
I think that's where it came closest to the island.
That's correct, yes. Alligator Pond. But we don't have any more specific information than that, Rasta Rock. Wint, good evening.
Good evening. I just a brief question. I just want to know why the restoration for St. James, Antigua West Village, that's where I'm located right now. There isn't much damage in this area. I'm just wondering, when are they going to give us an approximate on when we're going to get back service?
Well, if the minister is to believe, we should be getting more fulsome details from JPS tomorrow in terms of areas that they're targeting and areas that should be receiving power soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially for areas, as you say, that you're not seeing any particular kind of damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the next question is that we received back yesterday and it went this morning, and it has been an issue right now.
Oh, so you had power and then it went?
No, water.
Oh, water.
Yes, we received water yesterday after Wednesday, and it went this morning. Luckily, I filled my tank, but it's still tedious because I don't have any electricity to actually power
the pump, yes.
The pump, exactly. So I have to be back and forth, and it's tedious. I know other persons have other issues out there that is better than mine, but still, mine still exists. And for the former caller just a while ago, not this one, the one before, persons are going through a lot of stress, a lot of less and so forth. You just have to understand that we understand his duty and what he has committed his life to do to provide his service and everything to Jamaica, but nonetheless, people are going to put themselves forward and just have to respect that, because there's person with illness out there that is I couldn't even imagine. Cancer, diabetes, everything. And people need these utilities to live. And you just have to understand that we're not being biased about this.
I understand. As Ricardo has said, it's difficult to exercise patience when you yourself are suffering.
Especially in this crisis right now. This is a crisis.
Yeah.
This is a crisis. And I think that there has not been any major improvement in terms of infrastructure after Sandy, and Sandy is 13, 14 years. I'm not throw on the numbers, but I don't think Jamaica has made a big improvement from that time.
I don't know if that's the case. I'm certain Jamaica's infrastructure, particularly as it relates to JPS, has improved over the years. In terms of their service delivery, I suppose we've been so infrequently hit by major storms in the last few years that I suppose it's hard to test properly in terms of proper disaster resilience. But certainly JPS's service delivery has improved over the years.
All right. I get what you're saying, but in terms of like even the cellular, like and so forth, like it from like I think it was this morning, early this morning that I received service after days without even can make a call. We can make emergency calls as well. We can reach out to anyone, and that and everything. Even though I might not know the scope of everything. But I'm going to say, like, are they making any improvements over the last decade to alleviate all of these problems when it comes on to, like, natural disasters and so forth? Are they? I think, like, from time to time, we need, like, something just to give us the of like, going into the future.
You mean like a quarterly report?
Exactly.
Isn't that I don't know if it's still a thing, but wasn't that something that was done on the Kelly Tomlin every once in a while? She'd send out a press release and actually come and face the people and say, this is what we've been doing.
But I think she understood the importance of communication. I don't think her successors have followed,
which is a shame.
That trend.
Which is a shame. I think she was one of the most active and proactive CEOs of JPS.
For sure.
I remember that as well. Like, just to let people be in the know and persons to be in the know is like, even though we can't mitigate the situation right now, but just comfort people, man. Yeah. It's one of the greatest things.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. But that is it for that.
All right, my brother. Thanks for the call.
No problem.
That caller raises an interesting conundrum. When cell service goes down, the emergency lines cannot be accessed through your cell phone at all.
No, man, I think they can. I think, well, it depends on the phone you have. For example, the iPhone will say emergency calls only.
So how does that work without the access to the cell towers? That's what I'm curious about.
I don't know. I don't know how they do it, but the iPhone can do it. So, for example...
Because I think that would be very important. I mean, I've never been in a situation where I would have to test that.
That's what I always see. So once my service goes, you'll see emergency calls on. I've never actually tried it, but it just says emergency calls on.
Okay, as long as that resilience is built in.
That's some kind of zero-rated thing. I don't know.
Angie, good evening.
Hi, good evening, gentlemen.
How are you?
I am doing very well, I am doing very well. I'm calling about the residents in Bull Bay. That's up by from just as you come over the bridge, 10 miles, St. Thomas and St. Andrew border there. There is no light, and there's been no light since burial. And there are quite a few businesses in the area, along with myself, my business, and we are out of service. We noticed that adjoining communities in little patches have lights, so we're just wondering, because we're not hearing anything, we're just wondering if there's going to be any time soon that we're going to get our lights back.
That's a 10-mile bridge?
From the 10-mile bridge going up.
Okay.
Yeah, going to St. Thomas. So we just want to know, people are restless, and rightly so. But, once people hear what is going on and people get some sort of communication and feedback, then it helps to soothe us.
No, I appreciate that. And you see, that's part of the problem, Angie, because I'm also from Bull Bay, and see where I am, there is power. So apparently further up, there's no power, and then in Harborview, there's no power. So that's part of the problem. And the communication isn't clear as to why that is. So
right. So I think just giving us an update, because even today I tried to get through to JPS and it is saying error. So you can't get through to them on the app, and you're not getting through on their phone line. So we just need an update as to what is going on.
Yeah, and I see
I'm
Davina
gonna,
here. I see Davina here saying also in 8 Miles Bull Bay they don't have any power either.
Yes, some parts I realized, because I'm just driving through and I realized that some parts do not have any power as well.
Yeah.
I want to just use your medium to encourage some of the persons I hear complaining that just give it some time. We just go through a disaster, and of course, in times like these, all the resources, they're not just going to just happen overnight. It takes time, because I have to be telling a lot of my customers the same thing, that just be a little bit more patient, because they're humans like us. So just bear with them a little bit more, you know?
Yeah.
So that's it. But I need some feedback from JPS as it relates to the power in that area,
And
in
it's
my area
important
there.
to know, because a lot of these communications for these communities understand that just telling somebody that we understand the situation and we are working to
Goes
fix
a
it
far
is
away.
so assuring.
Yeah.
That is
somewhere.
correct.
It
That's
goes
all
somewhere.
we need to hear.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
Angie, did you try reaching out to JPS on social media? Did you try that?
Not social media. I just tried their app,
The app,
and
right.
I tried calling the number.
Okay.
So I didn't try the app. So maybe I can try that.
All right. So okay.
Thanks for that
But
suggestion.
I'll also do my checks. I'll ask Miss Callum about 10 Miles Bull Bay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a great night.
You too. Let me just read this comment here. Somebody says, when the caller mentions people who rely on the utilities for things like medications, he's talking about a deadly serious thing. I am on medications that have to remain cold. If the power goes for too long, I could find myself in a very dangerous situation. And I appreciate
the
that
one
very
that he
much.
mentioned regarding insulin is very important. You have to keep it refrigerated, and if it isn't refrigerated, it spoils very quickly.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And a diabetic person who does not get their insulin could easily fall into a coma and die.
Yeah, a very dangerous situation. Albert, good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening, sir.
How are you doing?
Doing all right. How are you?
Well, I'm hanging in there. Far away from the disaster, but still feeling the pain that you guys are going through, you know? It's a tough one. And one of the problems there is that those people in the areas which have been devastated, they are not getting any information because of no power and no telephone services and so forth, so they are blank, you know?
Yes.
And that makes it very hard. Can you imagine you're there when you're not getting any information?
My brother, I tell you honestly, I cannot imagine it. I've been saying to Siobhan, I don't know. And when you hear some of the timelines, 4 weeks for power restoration, I can't imagine what it's like. I cannot.
No, man, it's rough, you know?
Yeah.
And people complaining about the light coming back and so forth. One must remember that power is not generated in your community. It's very far away. And the transmission line, if it goes down, guess what? You're not going to get any power until it's up.
Yes.
Even though in areas where there's no damage, you may not get any power for days or a week. Why? The line that feeds it to your neighborhood is
It
down.
might be, yes, that's true. That's true.
Has to be restored.
But what would I understand the callers to be saying, is they would just want to know, have some communication. They're saying they're not getting that. So they're not even sure what the problem is. There's no update.
Right, but the problem is now a lot of areas are not getting information because there's no media outlet there. There's no power. There's no internet. There's no phone.
Yes.
You know, so you may have to have town crier going out and say, "Hey, this is where we are. We're having issues, and bear with us."
That's a possibility.
You know,
that's a possibility.
I think they may have to think about getting some town criers to go out and give some information. You know.
Yeah.
That may have to happen. But I see the feeling because I remember our last hurricane here. It took almost 4 weeks before we got current.
Yeah.
We were out in the dark.
All right, we have
We
to.
had a generator, but it was horrible, you know.
Yeah, man, we have to leave it there. We're out of time, my brother.
When we have been storms, that's unfortunately that's the inconvenience, you know.
Yeah, have to leave it there. Out of time. All right, have a good one. Yeah. I saw a comment here I wanted to read, but it's gone. Yeah. Where was it? I think the person was offering yes. Gosham says JPS has a WhatsApp channel that has been posting updates about where they are and what they're doing. So yes, if you can access it, and I imagine if you can go on their social media page, you should be able to find how you access that WhatsApp channel. So that might be helpful for those who are seeking some more timely updates. Yeah, that's all the time we have this evening. Indeed, this week. Dana Davy, salute, ma'am, salute. Andrew Glenn Anderson, Bugs, salute. Not gonna say it. Was he bare face? He thought I was gonna say it, but not gonna say it. Carol Powell, who leads the newsroom, and our colleagues, the best in the business. Thank you all so much for the support.
I'm not saying that. Well, all the best to you, Mr. Brooks and Mr. Hughes, along with Sanjay, since I'll be gone for my vacation.
How long? Oh yes, I forgot about that. How long are you gone for?
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, so, all the best to all of you.
Okay.
I'll be back about the end of July.
He did tell me. Now hush. So, listeners, Siobhan goes off for 3 weeks, and Sanjay will be here alongside Cliff and myself next week, and the following week, and the following week.
Precisely.
Who gave you 3 weeks vacation?
Myself. I gave myself 3 weeks vacation.
We have a conversation with your superiors.
We only reached a halfway point, but it's been a year.
3 weeks though?
It's been a year.
It's been 3 weeks, only enough. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
I'm Siobhan Campbell.
Good evening.